Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the turn of.
Hi,
Please meet yourselves, please. Welcome to the third edition of the Life After Law School webinar. Please confirm that you can hear me.
I can hear you.
So much. Thank you. So, good afternoon. I can confirm that our speakers are already in the meeting. Thank you so much, my Lord, Honorable Justice O.A. Baye, the Learned Senior Advocate, Mr. Chukwukai Kwazom, SAN, Mrs. Fumi Roberts, Mr. Adeoluwa Inyoluwa, senior members here with us, my fellow lawyers and bar aspirants, you're all welcome to the third edition of the Life After Law School webinar series. So I just wanted to give a bit of a background so that we know why we're here. This webinar is an initiative that was established as a platform for young lawyers to engage, learn, network, and navigate pressing issues affecting young lawyers and bar aspirants. We started it in 2023, and today we are having the third edition. This year's webinar aims to do basically three things: share practical experiences of senior members of the bar, provide guidance on how to navigate employment struggles of young lawyers, and then inspire lawyers on how to build a sustainable career. As a result, part of the key discussions or questions that we're going to be answering today, which the speakers will try to attempt, is number one, how we can reduce the rate of unemployment in the legal profession. Two, what options exist for young lawyers unable to secure employment in the established law firms? And finally, how young lawyers can successfully branch into non-traditional career paths and what that would look like. So our desire is that after this webinar, all the participants would have gained practical insights on how to navigate career challenges after law school and understood both traditional and non-traditional career opportunities available to lawyers, and finally have inspiration to approach their careers with resilience, creativity, and adaptability to the economy and everything going on in the legal industry. And also, if possible, establish connections with the speakers as mentors to guide them in their professional journey. So I encourage you all to pay attention, participate actively, and I say a very big thank you to our wonderful speakers for honoring us with their presence, their time, despite their tight schedule. I couldn't possibly afford to pay them if I were, to pay them for their presence here today. So I'm honored and privileged to have them as our speaker in this third edition. So thank you all very much. So please, while I'm speaking, all the participants, please go to the chat box and just give a clap emoji to all our speakers, please. Just give them a clap emoji. And I'm just going to go on and introduce the first speaker, Honorable Justice Faji. But before I do that, please, while I'm speaking and you're giving a clap emoji to all our speakers, also introduce yourself when you're done clapping. State your name, where you're joining us from, and if you're a bar aspirant or a lawyer. And then let me just state modalities for today's webinar. So everybody stay muted. Try as much as possible not to interject or interact the speaker. You can ask questions, but at the end of the presentation, we're going to call you to ask questions, at which you can just raise your hand, a finger or something. When you are called upon, you can now unmute yourself and ask your question. Alternatively, you can also state your questions in the chat box and we're going to read them out. So please stay tuned. And after the interactive session, we can now give out our prizes. So I already took note of the 5 people that joined on time. Chineye Eze Abasili, Chizoba Loveline, Ede Chimna Gorum Faith, Deborah Oga. Then I don't know between Bola O and Ekeme Robert who came on first, but those were the 2 names I saw join almost at the same time. So enjoy the webinar, and we're also going to give a cash prize too. So as the speakers are speaking, as they are speaking, pay attention. At the end of each speaker's presentation, we're going to ask you to summarize what they've said. So anybody who raises their hands first, their finger first, and then asks or summarizes succinctly what they've said, you will also go home with a cash prize. So for the first speakers, each of them is, the people that came in on time, for punctuality's sake, each of them is going to go with 5,000 naira each. So just stay tuned and stay active, all right? Pay attention as they go on and speak. So other announcements will be given at the end of the presentation and interactive session. So I will now invite Honorable Justice O.A. Baye to speak to us on her topic. But before she do that, let me quickly read her abridged citation. I say abridged because it's long and we just had to just shorten it briefly so you can imagine. So, my lord, pardon me for reducing um your citation, but it's just so that it can
Go
stay.
ahead, go ahead.
Thank you, ma. Thank you so much. Okay, trying to share it so that you can also read with me. Okay, so Honorable Justice O. Baye is a distinguished jurist with over 4 decades of experience. She holds an LLB from the University of Lagos and an LLM from the University of London. My lord started her legal career in the University of Ibadan, Oyo State, as a lecturer before her appointment as a judge of the Lagos State Judiciary in 2001. Currently, my lord is the administrative judge of the High Court of Lagos State Judicial Division, overseeing about 32 courts and contributing actively to judicial policies and reforms. My lord is also an internationally accredited mediator, published author, and respected resource person at legal and non-legal firms. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Honorable Justice O.A. Baye. My lord, over to you now. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much, Chinasa, for that brief introduction. And let me start. I hope you can all hear me. I cannot say, yes. Let me start by saying that I am delighted to be at this type of forum and to be part of this discussion on this all-important topic of navigating a career after taking your professional exams. And as new weeks, let me also commend the convener, Ms. Chinasa Akachuku, for putting together this kind of forum. And I'm delighted to hear that this is the third edition of it. So you are on a roll, Chinasa, and I'm impressed by you. I got to know Chinasa less than 2 years ago. I think we met at an MBA function, but I was immediately struck by her poise and confidence. And she walked up to me, I was there to present a paper or something, or to just lend my support. And she walked up to me, she told me a little bit about herself, we exchanged contacts, and, she's become my mentee ever since. So the moral of the story is that new weeks, you have to go after what you dream for. All right. So be bold, be confident in yourself, and certainly the sky is not the limit. My brief is that I should say a little bit about how I transited to become a judge of the High Court of Lagos. You would have heard from my profile that I started out as a lecturer, and this was sometime, I believe, in 1984. I had taken my second degree. I was married. I had done my youth service, and I just found myself in Oyo State with my husband, with a young family. And I knew I didn't want him to go into the Ministry of Justice. So I said, okay. I heard that the faculty was just being established. I mean, University of Ibadan is an old institution, the premier university in Nigeria. But their faculty was just being established. So I applied, and that was it. At the end of the day, I spent a total of 17 years in academia. And it was from academia that I was invited to the bench. So, if anything, the moral of the story is that you must be doing something, um, paying your dues, hard work. And the life of academia is you read a lot, you do a lot of research, you participate in conferences, you publish articles, and you network. And there I was hoping to become a professor of law, but I guess that God had other intentions for me. And so when the invitation came to me sometime in 2001, well, at first I was very reluctant because I didn't know anything about adjudication. I didn't practice. I have always been in the four walls of research, lecturing and teaching, molding and shaping young minds like yours. And so, but after much thoughts and prayers, I decided to accept the invitation. And, I think that was one of the wisest decisions I made in my career. So I'm happy. I have transcended, um, you know, both professions in different dimensions, first as an academic and now as an adjudicator. And it's been a fulfilling career for me. Now, my brief is that I should speak a little bit about building resilience and professionalism in a demanding legal system. Is that okay that I should just go on, Ms. Akachukwu?
Yes, my lord,
Yes,
please
okay,
proceed.
all right. So, you start off with the word resilience. What do we mean when we say resilience? Because this is a topic that talks about building resilience. And the dictionary meaning of resilience is the capacity to overcome challenges and to bounce back from adversity, the ability to adapt and to recover, just that inner strength that helps you to refocus even when things don't go according to plan. So you must be constantly reinventing yourself at whatever stage that you are in. So this also calls to mind the ability to have that mental strength, to be tenacious, to never quit. Quitting is not an option. Like one of, it's always been drummed in my ears that, look, whatever you do, quitting is not an option. And you must develop a positive outlook. So since I'm addressing new wigs, I then thought that, one of the salient points you have to understand is to understand the terrain in which you find yourself. Very many of you would have thought that, oh, okay, I want to study law. I don't know how you ended up studying law. It could be that a member of the family was a lawyer, you got attracted to it. Some of you could just have done extremely well in high school, and one of the top professions to have to go into at the university would be, okay, let me study law. And so no matter how you found yourself in the legal profession, here you are now. And if you want to make a good success of it, you must understand the terrain. So no man goes into a venture without counting the costs, without assessing the strengths and weaknesses of the situation, and without planning for it. So, like they say, the popular adage, if you fail to plan, then you are planning to fail. So that would not be what we are all about here. And that's why quite a number of you are on this space this afternoon. You could have been doing something else. So the very first things you need to understand is, let us understand the challenges that we face. And in the brief that I had with Chinasa, we both agreed that, well, yes, there are limited openings in the big and the well-established law firms. And you all know them, the big, I'm not going to mention names. I'm not going to give unwanted publicity to any particular law firm. But you all know them, those ones that have offices in Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, and, and all over, and also sometimes in Kano or Kaduna. But even when they're running at full capacity, there's only so many new wigs that they can appoint or absorb in any given year. And so if you get in, you are lucky. If you don't get in, that is not the ending. And so we're going to be discussing about what else you could do. So because very many law firms, are constrained, they cannot absorb everybody. There is a keen competition. I believe at the last count, there are 12 law school campuses. Now, if there are 12 law school campuses and with an average of maybe 1,000 to 2,000 new wigs every year, then that tells you that no less than 5,000 lawyers are being turned out on every year. So the competition is keen, it is fierce, so you must understand that. And everybody is hoping to get into the limited slots of, the established law firm, organized private sector, public sector, and so on. Then, as new wigs, you also have to manage peer pressure uh, because immediately you graduate, there's a lot of expectation placed upon you, even from your family, from your friends. Everybody knows that the legal profession is the most honorable profession. You are treated with so much awe and you are accorded so much respect, and they just want to begin to see the dividends of, maybe you're a lawyer and you finished law school, so what next? But you have to manage those expectations. You have to do not doubt yourself, even when in the beginning things seems to be rough. And you also have to manage the risk of discouragement and self-doubt. Even though you have finished law school, I can tell you with plenty of experience that I have that there is a world out there that you don't even know anything about. You may have been good in the theory of the law, but the practical outside of operating the law is what you are being thrown into. So these are things that you pick up and you learn with experience. And so you have to become like a sponge. You keep on absorbing new ideas, new information, and understanding how things work. I know that on the bench, from time to time, we get students who come to the courts for their externship. And okay, fine, yes, they watch proceedings in the court, but I always tell them there are other critical areas you need to go and see. Go to the registry, understand how a process gets filed, go to the bailiff section, understand what the work of the bailiff is, how does a process get served, or go to the appeal section, understand the rudiments of what goes on at the appeal section as well, so that you just become a sponge, you understand the practical side of things as well. Now, having said all of that, I think we also need to discuss the possible career options. I would like to start with academia, which is a veritable space where you can find yourself, either teaching, lecturing, or in a research institution like the Nigerian Institute of Advanced Legal Studies, the National Judicial Institute, which is the training institute for judges. They also take on law officers who are in their research department. At the last count, I believe there are close to 300 universities in Lagos. I think the precise figure from the National Universities Commission is about 272. Now, all I can say is that very many of them would have faculties and colleges of law. So if you have a strong first degree and you've perhaps taken a second degree and you don't mind taking a doctoral degree, along the line, you don't have to take that PhD right away. But if you get absorbed into the faculty, then you start off on a doctoral degree after a couple of years. So that is also a veritable space where you can find yourself, as a lecturer, but you must have a passion for it, or you must just be ready to do the work. There's a saying that goes in academia that you just have to be a hardworking person. You have to not only take your lectures and tutorials, you must also publish, do research, learn to put articles together, either individually or in collaboration with other lecturers. I haven't talked about that, I think the next big space that new lawyers could find, employment opportunities would be in the mainstream public service. Remember that Nigeria operates a federal system, and we have three tiers of government. We have the federal government, the state government, and even the local government. And in all of these three tiers, lawyers are always in demand. They are always wanted. Lawyers operate also in the local government as law officers and so on. And so apart from the Ministry of Justice, uh, either the Federal Ministry of Justice or even the State Ministry of Justice. Those are possible places that you can apply to. And then at the state level, I believe all other ministries, by whatever name they are called, they're always requiring law officers. I do not know the exact way, whether you get employed at the Ministry of Justice first and then you can be deployed to other ministries. I don't know. But I dare say that most other ministries, Ministry of Lands, they would always need law officers. So I don't know how they get the law officers, but that is one possibility. And then, of course, I would always talk about the lower bench. The lower bench is what we call the magistracy. This is a career path of its own. I believe that 3 years post-call is all the requirements you need, 3 years post-call, but you must have been doing something relevant. You cannot be selling peanuts on the roadside and then think you want to cross over into the magistracy. All right, so you must have been, even if it's in a mid-size or small law firm, just be doing something, understand how the law operates in theory and in practice. And then I believe that most states have qualifying exams. And so you could make the magistracy. And the magistracy is an entire career path on its own. Not every magistrate becomes a judicial officer or judge of the High Court, but there is a strong possibility that you could be. But if I were a magistrate, I would be happy being a magistrate and rising up to become a chief magistrate at the end of the day. So that is also an opportunity. I must also mention that, well, in Lagos State, for example, I know we have customary courts, and we used to have laymen presiding in the customary courts. But now I think the chief judge has made it that um, lawyers preside in the customary courts. Well, that is the very, very, very low level courts. Not that I am recommending that, but I'm just saying that it is information that you should know about. And then, of course, we can talk about employment in federal government and state parastatals, the regulatory agencies, and corporations. And this cuts across different sectors of the economy. So, for example, in the financial sector, you could be employed at the Central Bank of Nigeria, the NDIC, the National Deposit Insurance Corporation, Securities and Exchange Commission, National Insurance Commission. These are, humongous bodies, and they have a lot of staff. And as a lawyer, you may be treated, if you go into operations, just like any other graduate, or you could specifically go into the legal department. But I would recommend in this kind of organizations, perhaps going into the operations department. And by the time you move around, and nobody can take your own unique skills away from you as somebody who is versed in the law, who knows how to check up on the law and how to do research into aspects of the law. So those are some of the regulatory and quality control agencies. You also have the Corporate Affairs Commission, the Federal and the State Inland Revenue Service, the National Agency for Food Drug Administration and Control, that is NAFDAC. I'm not here to give you a host of, go and do your research. I believe that all of them are even listed out in the Constitution, one of the schedules to the Constitution. You will see the list of all the federal government agencies, or you could go to the federal government's website and you will find a list of them. And from time to time, you could submit your applications and stuff like that. And then, of course, there are also what we call the sector-specific corporations. So, for example, in oil and gas, everybody knows about the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, and a host of others. That's not only NNPC. In aviation, you'll be talking about FAN, the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria. In the maritime sector, you'll be talking about the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA, and so on, without having to bore you. I would like to also mention that in the security and law enforcement sector, that is also a veritable sector that is very attractive to new wigs and to lawyers. Don't forget that security, law enforcement, law itself, they are all allied professions. So there will always be room for lawyers in the police, in the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, in the Independent and Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, and so on and so forth, including the Directorate of Security Services. That will be about it for the public sector. And then, of course, the largest employer in Nigeria would be the organized private sector. And they are the largest employers of labor. And we're talking here about the traditional banks, insurance company, oil and gas companies, agro-allied companies, media, advertising, technology, fintechs, which is a growing field. And so you could either be an in-house counsel there, compliance officer, which are entry level, tax officers, operations, or even in the legal department. So these are, possible areas in which you could look into, and not just, private practice. And then, of course, the world has now become a global village, and so we need to talk about international careers. There is a strong international community as established by the United Nations Organization, and there's a gamut of organizations under the United Nations umbrella. And from time to time, they're looking for law officers. The only downside that I can see is that they want you proficient in a second language, in any of the international languages, whether it is French, Portuguese, or Spanish, and maybe a couple of others I don't recall. But at least you must have a skill in a second language. And I believe that to take a second language these days should not be so difficult. There's so many online resources. Learn French in 90 days. At least you'll get, if you put your mind to it, there's nothing that you cannot learn. So that talks about international careers. I also need to mention about international non-governmental organizations. We're talking about the Red Cross, the Red Crescent, and Amnesty International, and so other allied professions. Then, of course, careers outside of Nigeria itself. Very many new wigs are going to find themselves outside of the country. And so you are confronted with the dilemma. Do I stick to my profession, or do I, reinvent myself, as it were? And that's all about understanding your terrain equally. You need to know, because getting into a new country, you're confronted with so many challenges. You have to pay your bills. You have to look after yourself. If you have a young family, you have to prepare for that young family. And so sometimes it may be difficult, I don't want to say impossible, to immediately start practicing in your profession, because when you transit to other countries, even if you go to a common law country, you will have to do a recertification. All right. So it's just like anybody coming into Nigeria. You've got a law degree from any other country, even if it's a common law country, you still have to go and do whether it's Part A or Part B at the Nigerian law school. So you get recertified. So it depends on which country you go to. You will just need to do that recertification if you want to practice the legal profession. You may need to take a language. You may need to learn some other soft skills like, technology, AI tools, and so on and so forth. But these are also opportunities for you, and you just have to be prepared and be tenacious in your pursuit of these new opportunities. So finally, as I come to an end of my presentation, I would like to talk about how do you position yourself for these opportunities. First of all, I'd like to reiterate that we have identified that competition is keen. So it's very important to give yourself an edge to stand out. And I would suggest that you acquire a new skill. And this could involve further learning. There's a vast array of opportunities out there. Some require fees, some do not require fees. There's so many resources online, and you can practically teach yourself anything. Just have the interest and pursue it. You just have to be dogged. I would also say that it's also important as new weeks to, keep on networking. This cannot be overstated. You have to belong to your profession, your professional association. You have to participate in bar activities. You have to be a part of it, volunteer. Lend your time, lend your resources, lend your voice, keep visible. And the same goes also for your alumni associations. Which university did you graduate from? If they don't have a strong alumni, you can start one, especially for these private universities. You could start one. You could come together with a group of friends and just launch into the deep, keep the alumni association going, because it opens doors for you. That's just the essence of it. Networking and in these spaces, let them know you, be able to, oh, I'm a graduate of, and I'm an alumna of University of Lagos, and you get to see somebody else who is sitting on that position, and they'll be interested in helping. We cannot also overemphasize skills development. It used to be at one time that computer literacy. Oh, yes, I know how to do power presentation and, word processing and all of that. But those ones have become rudimentary now. And so I would suggest that there are other things, get proficient in AI tools, ability to do in-depth research, proficiency in a second language. And finally, as I close out on this, you want to remember that law is all about dispute resolution, and the most familiar of which is litigation. But there are other avenues by which you can become a competent dispute resolver. And there's so many institutions out there, and I'm glad that one of the co-presenters today is Mrs. Fumi Roberts, and I'm sure she'll be she'll perhaps be speaking more about how to retrain to become an arbitrator, a mediator, a good negotiator. And all that this does is that it opens up more doors for you, gives you better opportunities, gives you visibility. And so my final thoughts would be that you should take internships and volunteering very seriously. Stay consistent and dependable in every area. Make sure that whatever task, no matter how simple, is assigned to you, that you execute it to the best of your ability. And there are many successful people out there, and you can always learn from them. So to have a good mentor is something that I would always encourage. And never you doubt that you can make it. You must have that level of confidence, because in every man there's a seed, of success in you already. It has been deposited, and what we're just trying to do is how to nurture it and make sure that every seed in you becomes a mighty oak. And on this, I would like to close for now, and possibly be able to expand on my thoughts and ideas when we get to the Q and A. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, my lord. Please, a round of applause. Okay, they're already giving you a round of applause. Thank you so
Yes, I
much.
can see that.
That was very detailed. So I'm not going to be doing the summarizing because I want somebody to win the cash prize. So which participant would like to give us a summary of what my lord has said so far? Otherwise, I'll just say it and we go on to the next person. Ekeme Robert, okay, let me hear you. Unmute yourself and go on.
Okay.
After you,
So,
Blessed, and after you, Mofetoluwa Ade.
okay, good afternoon, everybody. And thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you for organizing this session, and thank you to my Lord for taking the first part of this interesting discussion on life after law school. So I think my key takeaway was to keep doing and being resilient at what you do, regardless of the obstacles that you even up to the point where she discussed the available opportunities that law school graduates have post the NLS phase. I like how she started with past 17 years in the academia and how she transitioned into career in the architecture. And I think a key takeaway from like another like key point that I think she mentioned that I don't think I've heard so much of is how the opportunities in federal government agencies. That's kind of something that's new to me. Because ordinarily it just seems like, if you're not doing the big law firms, the commercial law firms, or you're not doing like this smaller thing, private practice, then you're really not doing well, right? So like her, like, opening up this window of opportunity for us to see like the full spectrum of opportunities that are available was very interesting and rather insightful. And also she mentioned that there are international opportunities, and she also mentioned how you can probably position yourself, which is by getting some level of competence or building some level of competence in the language like French. Let's call it an internationally recognized language like French and Italian. I don't know what Italians call their language, Spanish, as German language or stuff. And then it's also interesting and what missing that she said that, you know, having mental strength to be financial and never quitting is an essential, you know, is an essential tool for scaling or like making headway in the legal profession. I also like how she integrated the religious aspect or like the faith aspect, when she mentioned counting the cost and analyzing the situation before you jump into it. I
Yeah.
like how she said that
So
you should
so
think things
just give me a
through
summary.
before.
Just give me like, even if it's five or four of the other sectors that she mentioned where you can also work as a young lawyer and not
Okay,
just focused on law
okay.
firms. So she mentioned other sectors
Law
outside
firms.
law firms. So
Yes.
just give me like five. So I'll know you were
Okay,
really paying attention.
she mentioned law firms. She mentioned federal agencies. She mentioned agencies like NDIC. She mentioned agencies like NAFDA. She also mentioned that you could get into the academia, but that's mostly going to entail research. So you're not just handling classes, you're also doing research work and attending conferences. Fourthly, she mentioned international opportunities like doing things with the United Nations and other international organizations. she also mentioned a career at the bench, because law at its base level, at its core, is about dispute resolution. So she mentioned that you could practice law from the other side of the of
Okay.
the let's
So I
say
think
of the
you've done a
courtroom.
fair work.
And
You
then she
have
also
to.
mentioned
It's
she also
okay. It's okay.
mentioned
I think you've said enough.
alternative dispute. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so thank you very much. Every other person also thank you for those also raising their hands. We just have one person to summarize. I don't want to give more time to it because other speakers still have to speak. And I'm struggling to see how I can allow others join. I didn't know that the Zoom planner and Oran can only allow 100 participants. So people are texting me they can't join, they can't join. So I'm trying to see how I can upgrade that. But in the meantime, let's just stay put and we listen to the next speaker. Um, so, Robert, I'm going to put your name down as part of the things that my Lord says. So, I'm just going to also add other sectors that she mentioned, just in case anybody missed out on that. So, she stated universities, public service, ministries. So, I really want you to remember that ministries because it's almost as if we don't know that there are ministries that you can go and work with, lands, justice, etc., etc. She just stated that you can start working at the bench as well, the lower bench, magistracy, federal and state agencies, CAC, SEC, and the rest of them, FAN, maritime, aviation sector, oil and gas, etc., etc. I'm also going to, okay, let's just continue. So, at this juncture, I'm going to invite our second speaker, Mr. Chukwukai Kwazom. Let me just confirm that he's still here with us. I hope he's not also having issues joining.
Yes, I am.
Oh,
I'm here.
okay, thank you very much, sir. Okay. So over to you, sir. Let me just quickly read your citation as well. Please, just 1 minute. Okay, so Mr. Chukwuka Ikwazom, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, is a partner in Alukan Oyebode with expertise in taxation, dispute resolution, risk management, etc. Notably, he was part of the team that secured a favorable award for clients in an arbitration arising from disputes linked to a 1993 production sharing contract between the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation and several international oil companies. In addition to his practice, the learned senior advocate has made remarkable contributions to the legal profession, particularly during his time as the chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association Lagos branch from 2017 to 2019. He is still to date remembered as a visionary because of his impact. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome the learned silk, Mr. Chukwuka Ikwazom. Please, a round of applause for him. Over to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Chinasa. And I would like to recognize my Lord, Justice Ipaye, and all the other speakers. I'm happy to be part of this conversation today. Chinasa, when you reached out to me, I expressed, I told you I would be more than happy to be part of this because I think that what you're doing is worth supporting by everyone. My brief is to speak on a topic that says, what does it take to stand out and build a successful practice in Nigeria? You've also asked me to answer the focus question, how can law firms be regulated or encouraged to employ and fairly remunerate young lawyers? You want me to, in speaking to this topic and answering the focus question, to talk a bit about my professional journey up to this point. So I'm a partner at Alukanebode, where I started as an associate. I was born in Enugu, southeast Nigeria, and I only made occasional visits to Lagos. So at the time that I, finished from the law school and got admitted to the bar and decided to come to Lagos, you could say that, I didn't have any strong roots in Lagos. And I think this is important because I've seen that many people, have joined this program from different parts of the country, At that time, not everybody, Android phones and data were not as available at that time as they are today. So if you needed to do a simple search, of top law firms in Lagos, you would have to go to a cyber cafe. And that was what I did. I went, typed in top law firms in Lagos, and I saw Alukane Bode, Ududo Manbelos, Agiolani Wajai, Templars, Banwani Kodalo. And I put in applications in all of them. I got invited by Alukane Bode and a few others. I wrote the test, I passed. I was invited to attend an interview where I faced a panel of, I think, 6 or 7 partners, all of them asking me, technical questions of law. Now, what can you take away from this? The most important thing that you need to succeed as a lawyer is a strong technical knowledge. As lawyers, there are 2 things that we sell. We sell our time and we sell our knowledge. So if you're looking to succeed as a lawyer, you must have a very strong technical knowledge. The good thing is you don't have to, know all the law, to be able to succeed. You only need to understand the principles that you were taught in school, because when you're coming in as a beginner, the people who are interviewing you for potential employment, they are not really, looking at your experience or, your ability to solve complex questions. They want to know that the basic principles of law that you were taught, that you understood them and you were able to apply them to real life situations, which is what lawyers do in practice. They also want to know that you're able to, the sources of law where you can go to find answers to legal questions that, you do not have. So technical knowledge is very, very important if you want to succeed. And how do you acquire technical knowledge? By, reading, paying attention. I mean, a good number of you are still at the law school. A lot of the things that they're going to be teaching you there are things that, you will need a basic understanding of to be able to thrive in practice. Pay attention, focus on your work, on your coursework, and then gain as much knowledge as you can. And then when you get called to the bar, specialization is very important because, you can't be all things to all men. And if you really want to stand out, you want to be known for something. And again, I will use my personal example, to buttress the point about specialization. So I never sat in any tax, lecture while I was at the university. But when I joined my firm, a gentleman was brought in from one of the top accounting firms, to start the tax practice in the firm. And I walked up to him and I said, look, I want to work with you. He then asked me if I had any background in tax. I said, no. He asked if I had an accounting background. I said, no. But I said to him that, I'm interested in tax. I would want to work with you. And he said that was fine. Now, the very first assignment that he gave me, it was a legal tax opinion. I did it so badly that he ran red ink all over the opinion, the draft opinion that I presented to him. But what did I do? Rather than allow this to discourage me, I actually laminated that opinion, and I still have it somewhere in my home today. So that each time I looked at it, I was encouraged, to do more. What I then decided to do was to join the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria. At that point, I was presented with a waiver. If you're a lawyer and you want to join the institute, they'll waive some of the exams for you. But I turned down the offer of waiver because I felt that the waivers were designed for people who already had some, knowledge of taxation. So I decided to write all the exams. And then I enrolled a gentleman who was secretary of the Lagos State Internal Revenue Service, was organizing classes for people who wanted to sit for CITN exams every Saturday. And I enrolled, every Saturday from 8 in the morning to 6 p.m., I would sit down in class, studying to be able to write these exams. I wrote them, passed them, became an associate of at the institute. Today, I'm a fellow of the institute, and you know, a large chunk of what I do today in my firm is tax, whether it is tax litigation, whether it's tax advisory. So specialization is important. It's important that you get you're known for something, because, like I said, you cannot be all things to all men. Just to emphasize a bit more the importance of technical knowledge, a lot is said about marketing, how lawyers need to market themselves, how you need to package yourself as a lawyer. But I believe that the best way to market, to sell yourself, is actually by the quality of work that you do. If you do not have a strong technical knowledge, even if you manage to get a brief, if you mess it up the first time, you may not get a second opportunity. So technical knowledge is important if you want to stand out. Specialization is important if you want to stand out. And then, because a good number of you are still at the law school, it's important I make the point that you should try as hard as possible, to make good grades. Don't listen to anybody who tells you that grades are not important. Anyone who says to you, oh, so and so lawyer made a third class and he succeeded, run away from such people. And this is not me saying that you cannot succeed with a third class. But, if you want to be ahead of the curve, if you want to be ahead of your competition, it will help a great deal if you're able to make good grades. And I'll give you a practical example. A lot of the large commercial firms, they really don't have a policy, contrary to what a lot of people think, that if you don't have a 2-1 or a first class, you can't join them. No, they don't have that policy, a formal policy that says that. But what happens is, if you advertise for 40 positions for first year associates and you receive 2,000 applications, with the best will in the world, you're not going to be able to interview 2,000 people. So there has to be a process of shortlisting the candidates that you want to interview. And if you have someone who's made a first class or a strong 2-1 from a good university, you're not going to leave that person and take someone who made a pass, and invite that person to write an interview. So as much as it's still within your abilities, strive as hard as you can, to graduate with a good grade. Even if you have not been able to do so, you may benefit from additional qualifications, right? And I think my Lord hinted at it when she made her own presentation. You can get an LLM, you can get a doctorate, you can get a certification, you can do an MBA. These are things that aid the work that you do as a lawyer and actually enable you to stand out. The other point I would like to mention is networking and mentorship. Networking within the profession is very, very important. And unfortunately for a lot of you young people, the access you have to the internet, you use it to do things that, may not necessarily assist what you want to achieve. There's a story I like to tell of a young man who applied to work in one of the large commercial firms in Lagos. And then he got a reference from a partner in one of the international law firms in Paris. So, I became interested in how he got this partner in an international law firm to give him a recommendation. I asked him, have you traveled to Paris before? He said, no. How did you meet this man? And he said it was on LinkedIn. He met him on LinkedIn and told him that he would want him to be his mentor. And the guy started mentoring him. And when he mentioned to him that he was applying to work in a firm, it turned out that the partner, has a relationship. The ILF partner has a relationship with, the law firm in Nigeria that he's applied to. And he, sent a recommendation to him. And that was how he got it. So the point I make is mentorship is very important. Networking is very important, whether it's within the profession in Nigeria or even outside the profession in Nigeria. The time you have, the data you have, the Android phone that you have, rather than, spend all your time doing TikTok and X and Facebook, devote some of your time, to building meaningful relationships within and outside of the profession, because you don't know, any one of those relationships may come in handy for you. So there are a whole lot of other things that you can do if you want to stand out. Time may not permit me to go through all of them, but I think it's important that I also mention that in addition to technical knowledge, you need to also develop soft skills, communication skills, research skills. These are things that, whether you're setting out on your own because you're not able to get into a structured firm, or you're getting into a structured firm, these are some of the skills that will help you to achieve success in your career. I'll then use the remainder of the time that I have to answer the focus question that was put to me, which is, how can law firms be regulated or encouraged to employ and fairly remunerate young lawyers? It's important that we all understand that you cannot legislate employment and you cannot legislate remuneration. Employment is a function of the needs of a firm or an organization, and remuneration oftentimes is also a function of, a revenue, how much the firm is making. So whenever I'm asked to talk about remuneration within the profession, I make the point that we need to understand that there are two scenarios that we're dealing with. There are a lot of lawyers or law firms that are not able to employ, or even when they employ, they are not able to pay well, simply because they cannot afford to. It's a question of capacity for them. It's not a matter of willingness. But there's also another category of lawyers and law firms who employ and do not pay well, because the principal partners in these firms are still stuck in the 17th century mindset that when they employ young lawyers, they're learning from them and should even be paying them. So we need to understand that these two classes exist, because any conversation around improving employment and remuneration must account for these two classes of lawyers and law firms who employ. For the first category, I think that the MBA as an association, we need to do a lot more in terms of, enhancing the earning capacity or capacities of lawyers. Not too long ago, the profession adopted a remuneration order, that sets out certain percentages that lawyers are entitled to bill when they do certain types of work. Unfortunately, we have not been able to fully implement this remuneration order. It's observed more in breach than in the observance. But I think that as an association, we need to think outside the box, find innovative ways of implementing that remuneration order in a bid to enhance the earning ability or capacity of lawyers. Another thing that I think we need to do as a profession is essentially to fight unauthorized practice of law. Today you find a lot of people who are not qualified to practice as lawyers eating our lunch, whether they be accountants, in accounting firms, doing work that lawyers should be doing. Even international globalization has meant that even internationally qualified lawyers can do Nigerian legal work. So I believe that as a profession, we need to find a way to ensure that people who are not authorized to practice in our jurisdiction do not practice and take work that we should be doing. With respect to the second category, people who are able to employ and pay well, but they don't, because like I said, they don't believe that they should be paying lawyers who work for them well. I think that there are a number of things that can be done. The first is that the association can decide, that's the profession, can decide that some of the privileges that lawyers enjoy, they can only, that attach to the profession, can only be enjoyed by lawyers who are in compliance of the recommended minimum wages. So just as a background, I think about 4 or 5 years ago, during the presidency of Olumide Apata, a committee was set up that did a study across the country, to come up with what was considered to be living wages across the states of the federation. Keeping in mind that what is a living wage in Enugu may not be a living wage in Lagos. And on the basis of the studies and the work of that committee, some prescriptions were made, recommendations they were, because like I said, you cannot legislate a remuneration. So these recommendations were made, what the minimum salaries that should be paid to lawyers in each of the states of the federation should be. Again, a lot of employers of lawyers do not comply with those recommendations. And I believe that, the MBA and the legal profession can say, if you are not in compliance, we're not going to allow you to enjoy the privileges that are attached to the profession. So whether you want to be a judge, you want to be a senior advocate of Nigeria, you want a letter of good standing from your local bar association, they will look into how well you comply with, those prescriptions before deciding whether or not to allow you the privilege. Some people have made the suggestion that, failure to comply with the recommended minimum salaries should be a matter of professional misconduct. I don't think that we need to go as far as that, but I think that we can, like I said, by denying privileges to people who are in a position to pay well but do not pay well, we can encourage them, to remunerate lawyers in their employment better. One other thing that we can do is some form of naming and shaming. If the NBA has a site where maybe a portion of its website where it publishes the names of lawyers and law firms that comply with the minimum remuneration, they don't have to publish the names of those who do not. But if they publish the names of those who do, if your name is missing there, that may put you under pressure to try to comply. I will stop there. I will stop here at the moment. I'll be happy to take any additional questions that may be put to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Please, a round of applause for the Learner's Silk. And I think your last suggestion is actually very brilliant, as opposed to, will I say, disgracing law firms for not paying the required minimum remuneration. You can just not include their names, and then everybody would now fight to have their name listed on that list. So I think it's a very brilliant idea. So as we did before, we're going to ask you a question, but after all the speakers have spoken. We just plead with you to just give us more time for yours. So do we have somebody who wants to summarize? So this time around, I'm going to go to the chat. Okay, Blessing. Okay, Esther Ojo first. So I'll just take Esther Ojo and Blessing one now. So between the two of you, whoever summarizes first. So please, you have to do that in 1 minute. Just brief summary of what has been said. Nothing more, please. 1 minute. So Esther, go first, and then Blessing second.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Chinasa, and thank you so much, Leonard Silk, for that wonderful session. What I learned, which is one of the first things that he said, was as a lawyer, you must build strong technical knowledge of the law, and that is the most basic thing. You need a proper understanding of principles and also sources of the law. Yeah, he also mentioned specialization, the importance of specialization, which was when he gave us the example of how he got into specializing in tax at Aluko and Oyebode. Then he also talked about marketing yourself, and that the best way to market yourself is to do excellent work as a lawyer. He also mentioned that we could benefit from getting additional qualifications. You also mentioned the importance of networking and reaching out and building soft skills such as communication, research, and then he went into the aspect of how we could fairly remunerate the young lawyers, which was when he talked about the fact that you cannot regulate employment and regulation, but you can make recommendations. And he proceeded to make some very brilliant recommendations, such as the fact that the MBA can enhance lawyers' capacities, and then they can set a minimum wage standard which can be regulated through the reverse psychology of naming and shaming, encouraging law firms by publishing the names of law firms who meet the required standard. And in all, just to summarize what exactly I really got is the fact that having a technical knowledge of the law and doing excellent work as a young lawyer would stand you out in any space. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll listen to Blessing and then I'll compare what both of you have said. So Blessing, over to you now.
Okay, thank you very much. So The speaker grouped his presentation into two aspects. The first one being what you need to do to succeed in the profession, and then secondly, on how law firms can improve better employment and remuneration. So, on what you need to do to succeed, he mentioned that you must have technical knowledge and that it is very important in this nature of profession. He mentioned that to have technical knowledge would mean doing a lot of things. So, firstly, ensuring to read and pay attention while in school, and also the importance of specialization because it gives you more leverage to stand out and make sure that you're known for a particular thing. And then also to make good grades while in school and get certifications. And then importantly, on the concept of networking and how social media is one that gives us the advantage to take networking to, it gives networking a much more easier platform to be able to do so. Then secondly, he talked about how law firms can create better employment, and then he grouped it into two. So firms and lawyers who employ but then do not pay as much, and then mentioned that no one can legislate on how they do that, but then we can give recommendations. So on the newly remuneration order that was established, that proper enforcement should be given on it, and then to ensure that non people who are not authorized to practice should not be taking jobs that are meant for lawyers. That's people who are basically in the profession. And then for people and lawyers who are able to employ and pay well, but then they don't do that, he mentioned that there should be something like naming and shaming, where if it's the NBA's website, a little part of it, where they can do something like that and it can be there to name and call out those firms and lawyers. And then also that law firms and lawyers who are in a position to pay well but don't should be restricted from certain benefits that would normally accrue to them unless they ensure proper compliance in those methods. That's basically what I got from the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, I honestly think Blessing did a very good summary, more than Esther. I don't know if anybody disagrees with me, but I think she was able to just summarize everything and she touched every single thing that was said so far. So I think the that award would go to Blessing Money. So I'm just going to note your name. So thank you very much. We're now going to invite the third speaker before we go into the interactive session. I'm sure that Mrs. Fumi Robert is very ready for us. And please, let's keep paying attention. So let me just quickly read her citation before we go on. So Mrs. Fomi Roberts is a lawyer and a chartered arbitrator. She holds an LLB and LLM from the University of Ife. She's a lecturer, or she lectured in the University of Ibadan at the beginning of her career. As an arbitrator, she serves on global panels, including the ICC Court of International Arbitration, Paris, the World Bank Mediator Panel, and the UNDP Ombudsman Mediation Unit. She has also represented Nigeria on the Permanent Court of Arbitration at The Hague. Her leadership roles include Chairman of the Board of Trustees of Wimbys, Honorary Legal Advisor of the Institute of Directors Nigeria, and board member of EcoBank Liberia. So that is just to mention a few. Thank you very much, Ma. We're very happy and lucky to have you. Please, over to you now. Thank you. Please, a round of applause for her while she starts speaking.
Thank you very much indeed. And it's a pleasure to be here and share the same platform as the other speakers. And thank you very much for the very, very brief citation. And I hope that I'll meet your expectation. It always gives me great pleasure to share this kind of platform where we can talk to young wigs and new wigs. But the advantage of not being the first or second speaker is that the first two speakers or three speakers would have done most of the work for you. So I thank Honorable Justice Tony Baye and Lanet Silk for setting the stage for what I would be discussing. Now, I've been told to speak on Beyond Litigation, Exploring Alternative Career Paths in Law. You would realize that without meaning to summarize or attempting to summarize, you'll find that Justice Ikpaye and Lanet Silk have done a great job of telling you in very broad terms what are the alternative career paths you can take. And I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about my story, which At the beginning, it's not very far from Justice Ipaye's story. I worked in the Ministry of Justice after Youth Corps for 3 months. And then, just like Justice Ipaye, I learned about the Faculty of Law. And because I had very good grades from the Faculty of Law in my undergraduate studies, I was admitted as an assistant lecturer. I stayed on for a couple of years and I decided I didn't want to be a professor of law again. I then decided to look for a job, but I couldn't find anybody to employ me. I think I must have gone through so many law firms, put in my application. I was based in Ibadan, or I am still based in Ibadan. My husband, my kids were all in Ibadan. So the thought of leaving Ibadan did not even come up again. And I wanted to know the practice of law, but all the law firms that I went to turned me down and said I had knowledge of law, but I didn't have the experience of practicing law. So I went into a law firm, Ogunkaya, and thankfully I offered my services. And for 3 years, I worked in that law firm without pay. People ask me how I was able to do it, but I keep telling them that, look, I knew what I wanted. I wanted to know how to practice law. And for me, it wasn't about money. Fortunately for me, I was able to do it because I had a husband, and I just saw it as his responsibility to feed me, clothe me, and house not only me, but also my children. And he did that very well because I wasn't bringing anything home for 3 years. But I had a very clear vision of what I wanted. And at the end of 3 years, I was told that there's no room for partnership, but I'd always wanted to own what I was doing. So I approached two law firms. I drew up a plan, a 5-year plan of how to grow a law firm into a world-class institution. I approached two law firms, I won't mention the names, and went to them and told them that, look, I want to come and work for you. And I will ensure that in 5 years, I grow this law firm beyond your imagination. And these are my plans. Regrettably, well, fortunately for me, both of them turned me down. And I decided to set up Fumi Robots and Co., which was not in my radar at all at that time. And I started from one room, divided into two. I was using one half as my office. My secretary was using the other half. A couple of months down the line, I could afford the second room and I moved in. And it was there that I practiced law for so many years until about 16 years ago when I built Ashabi House, which now houses Fumi Roberts and Co. in Ibadan. And we also have an office in Lagos in Ikoyi with a focal point in Abuja. And I tell this story because when people see some of us seniors, they think that, oh, we had it easy all our lives. I've just shown you that at the time I was lecturing, when I came out, I had limited opportunity. And that leads me to the focal question I was supposed to talk about, that how can young lawyers navigate limited employment opportunities in the profession? If I talk to 10 young wigs today and tell them that you are still living with your parents or you are newly married, can you offer you, and this is advice I've given to so many young lawyers, can you walk into a law firm and tell them that you want to work for them for free? And I tell them that this is something that I did for 3 years. At that time, I couldn't afford new clothes. I was sewing my clothes. I was sewing clothes for my children. I couldn't afford a car for the first 12 years of my married life. But all that is history. I knew where I was going. I wanted to own. I didn't want to remain an employee. So there are so many opportunities out there. And like Justice Ipaye said, she's given you a list, a plethora of all the opportunities. But it is not everybody who wants to be in paid employment. And it is not everybody that has to be in paid employment. But even when you want to be on your own, when you want to own the space you are at. Leonard Silk works in a law firm. He didn't start that law firm, but he stayed the course of working in that law firm. And today, I think he's the managing partner of the law firm. Through that law firm, he became senior advocate of Nigeria. But what I see amongst young lawyers of nowadays, I call them migrants. They work in a law firm for a few months, they leave, they go and set up a mushroom law firm. Or they're not happy, the salary is too little, I want to go somewhere else, and they leave. So you find them working in 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces and not gathering any moss. Sometimes I call them that, look, I tell them that, look, Rolling Stone gathers no moss. Our youngest partner in Fumi Roberts & Co. And today, Fumi Roberts & Co. is one of the largest female-owned law firms in Nigeria, with offices in Lagos, Ibadan, and a focal point in Abuja. And right now, I'm in London. We're about to have a door office in London. You can do this, but there are some things that you just have to be clear about. Lana Silk said something. He said, you only need to get it wrong and you'll be forgiven the first time. The second time, they'll think perhaps you are weary and that was why you made the mistake. But if you keep on the trend, there's no way you are going to build a successful law firm. There's no way you can be in employment and stay the course in that employment. When you are in any environment, if you look at all the opportunities presented to you by Justice Ikpaye and say, okay, I want to go and work in this government agency, and you are given that job and you don't stand out and you are just going to work simply because you want to mark the register, remember that in that organization, it is like a triangle. Only one person is going to get to the top. 20 of you are going to start at the beginning. With time, you get whittled down. But only the best of the lot is going to get to the top. So it is for you to self-determine what you want from wherever you are going into. And you can decide to leave that space and go and join another organization. If you go in with the same mindset, you're going to have the same issue. I'm also going to refer again to something Leonard Silk had said. He said when he wrote his first opinion about taxation, the result he got back was a paper full of red lines, but it didn't deter him. But what I find about many young people today is that I think they believe that once you go to the law school, you have become an experienced lawyer. So when a senior is correcting them, and they ask, I've had a junior ask me one day that, does it mean that I don't know anything? And I had to lecture him that when you are in school, you know where to find the law, but it is different from where you are in practice. And this is when you begin to learn the practice of law. And if you go into this space without a self-determination of what you want from it, you'll just be jumping from one employment to another. Before you know it, you are 30 years at the bar. You are 25 years at the bar. You look back and ask yourself, hey, what have I done with all these years? And when I began my presentation, I said to you that I didn't set out to be an arbitrator. When I set up Fumi Roberts & Co., I was doing everything and any form of law. But the one thing I would not do was to take a brief I didn't have the capacity to do effectively, or partner with a law firm that can work with me and hold my hand in doing it. And then the opportunity for arbitration came up. In fact, the opportunity came up unexpectedly. I wasn't even invited into that opportunity to come and practice arbitration. I was invited into that opportunity to come and administer arbitration. And that invitation came from late Justice Kayode Esho. who said he needed somebody to be his registrar. What does a registrar do? The administrative aspects of arbitration. I then took it on, and I had no clue about arbitration. But I asked around, tell me about arbitration, and people told me. And then I requested, what is the simplest book I could read on arbitration? And I was referred to Orojo's book on arbitration in Nigeria. I bought the book. I looked up the law, made a copy of the law, and within a week, I read that book over and over 3 times. So that by the time I was acting as registrar to Justice Kayode Esho, I knew a lot more about arbitration than when the invitation came, when the opportunity came. And I then said to myself that this is a wonderful opportunity for you, Fumi. Why don't you specialize in arbitration? And I began the exams. I began to take the courses. And in those days, you don't have all the courses in Nigeria. We had to travel to London to do the examinations and courses for the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. And then I heard about mediation through an international program that I went for in the US. And I was fascinated about it. I came in, linked myself up with the person I call the father of mediation in Nigeria, Kehinde Aina, SAN. Introduced myself to him and worked with him. And I walked the talk. Look, what am I saying in essence? I'm just reiterating what the other 2 speakers have said. Whatever you want to do, you have to develop an attractive value proposition for yourself. There's so many young lawyers who walk up to me today and say, I want to be an arbitrator. And I tell them, go and read Orojo. Or have you even heard about Orojo? They have not. Sometimes I buy the book and I give it to them. Read it and let's have a conversation. Hardly do they come back. But they all want to be arbitrators. And I'm asking, sometimes some of them will tell me, I've taken the foundation course. And then I ask them, have you read the Arbitration and Conciliation Act? And they'll tell me no. And I said, look, how can you want to practice in a particular field and the law governing that field, you have not read it? And I'll bring out my copy of Arbitration and Conciliation Act. I printed it, bound it. It goes everywhere with me. I'm on the train. I'm in a car not doing anything. I'm reading that law. And they'll see notes that I've written against several sections of that particular law. So sometimes we want to walk, but we are not ready to walk and walk our desire to be an arbitrator. It is not easy. Nothing comes easy. And another thing is sometimes we are doing it because others are doing it. Somebody came to talk to us about arbitration and ADR and oh, I'm fascinated about it. And then I had a conversation with my friends, and they said they want to go into arbitration and mediation. And I decided that's what I want to do. Have you even done a self-analysis to ask yourself, is this what you really want? And even when you determine that, okay, I want to be an arbitrator, you then have to take it a step further. Do I want to practice domestic arbitration, or I want to take my practice international? Because the skills you require are too different in very many respects. This is when the visibility being talked about will come into play. This is when the continuous learning. I have been practicing law for 40-something years. I think I've been an arbitrator now for over 20 years. As at this year, I have taken 2 courses in arbitration, and I still have 1 more to take. There is hardly any year that I don't take 1 course or the other. And these courses are not about money, because some of them are actually free. And some of the advantages you have for online courses that will not take you out of your home, some of you don't even take it up. And that is why I always recall one young lady. Her name is Suliatu Salawuddin. And I give her as an example of somebody who knew what she wanted and was prepared to work what is required to get her to where she wants to be. The first time I met this young lady was at I think it was a seminar that I presented at in Olaniwo Ajayi in Lagos. And I was lamenting about the fact that we had a room full of people interested in arbitration, and that I can't find anyone who has come from Ibadan, which is my own base. And then she got up and said that I'm from Ibadan. I then said, can you please engage with me after this session? And she and I spoke, and I said, oh, when did you come to Ibadan? Who paid for this seminar for you? She said she paid by herself. Where are you staying? This is my second time in Lagos. I'm just going to look for a hotel around here and stay. I then invited her to stay in my house. And since then, I've held her hand. And you could see the passion, the willingness to succeed in her. And not just to succeed as a lawyer, in the chosen path, the path she has chosen for herself. And anytime I ask her, what are you doing? Oh, I've just entered for this course. I couldn't afford it, but I got my aunt to borrow me some money, which was what many of us did. Because when I started and I had to come to London, I couldn't afford the ticket. I couldn't afford hotel. I'd beg and borrow money from people around me, from relatives, buy my ticket, come to London, maybe for 2 or 3 days, sleep on my friend's couch, so I don't have to go and incur the expenses of the hotel and get the course done. And in the course of doing this, I met so many international arbitrators who today are my very, very close friends. They are my go-to people when I need help. So visibility is important. And then I'll refer again to something Leonard Silk said. He said you have to develop good interpersonal skills. If you want to be a mediator and you don't have good interpersonal skills, you're not going to succeed in that space. It's a given. If you are the best arbitrator in the world and you are rude or you cannot manage the different types of people you're going to come across, the different demographics you're going to come across, because you're going to come across the good, the bad, and the ugly in that space. You are not able to manage them skillfully and effectively and efficiently. You are not going anywhere in that space. More importantly, if you are not knowledgeable, I have sat with arbitrators who were appointed because they were friends to the law firm that appointed them and who had no clue about arbitration. And I always say to myself that for me, even though I'm not the presiding, I was a party appointed arbitrator. But the chairman was appointed by 2 of us only because he's a retired judge. Let's make him the presiding arbitrator, and we end up realizing that he doesn't know anything. Do we let him continue alone? No. That means you have to take on the added responsibility because at the end of the day, your own reputation is also at stake. So you end up doing all the work, or the 2-party appointed arbitrators do all the work, or if you are unfortunate enough to sit with a presiding or with a co-party appointed arbitrator who is not knowledgeable, you end up doing all the work, but you rather do it and come up with something that can stand the test of time, that can stand scrutiny. But in the course of doing it alone, you are also gaining more experience and retooling yourself, reskilling yourself, and not complaining that, oh, I'm the one doing all the work. After all, we're going to earn the same money. No, but you must deliver excellence at all times because you don't want your name smeared or your name to be associated with an award that was set aside. You must develop the ability to follow through And that is what I don't see in many young wigs. And what frightens me about your generation is the use of AI. Right now, I'm working on a project with an international firm on the use of AI in arbitration and ADR. And the way AI is going to interface in that space is very frightening. And your generation would need to work with AI. But what I have seen in recent times is that you place so much reliance on AI, forgetting that at the end of the day, the work you're going to deliver it not to another AI, but you're going to deliver it to human beings. In recent times, I received letters from some law firms. In fact, one happened about a month ago. I read the letter, and by the time I got to the second paragraph, I knew that that letter was generated by AI. I then found out the lawyer who signed that letter, and found that she's a young wig in a law firm, in a big law firm. And I spent more than 1 hour coaching her on how not to place reliance on AI. If you don't take anything away from this webinar, please go away with the fact that your world is a world that will work with AI. But AI will not enable you to develop that attractive value proposition to succeed as you should. I have delivered papers, presentations, I've done work, I've used AI, but I always acknowledge that for this, I've gotten this data through the assistance of ChatGPT or MAI or any of these other ones. Right now, I'm taking a course on AI. It's a 1-year course, and it's an online course, and it costs an arm and a leg, but I'm prepared to do it. Because whether we like it or not, AI is coming into our space. And believe me, this is the opportunity for you young ones to shine. I wish I were 30 years younger. This is the opportunity for you to shine. But you have to do it in a way that does not allow you, even your mental capabilities, to decline. Because when I read that letter from that young wig, it was a simple letter she could have written herself. And I told her, tell me about this letter. And she started stumbling. It was a 2-page letter. She started stumbling. I raised some issues about the letter, and I realized that she didn't even understand what she had written. And the one thing that is fantastic about our profession is that it is such a versatile profession. You can do so many things with our profession. I sit on the boards of companies today, not because, for example, on a bank. By the way, I am no longer on the board of EcoBank Liberia. I've served my term fully, and I served an extra year. But I today sit as chairman of several companies, but I am not there because I'm a woman of figures. I'm there because of my legal experience. I'm there because people have seen the value of my work through my law firm. And that is one thing you can retire into or semi-retire into. As a lawyer, every board, any board of a corporate organization or even an NGO that does not have a lawyer would end up making mistakes, particularly in terms of corporate governance. This is an area that if I were 30 years younger or 40 years younger, I would begin to build the blocks that would enable me to sit on the board of a company. Because you're going to add value to that company, you're going to be well remunerated, and you're going to meet people, you're going to learn new skills. Sitting on the boards of, but then you don't wait until you are in your 40s, which is at the time some of us started, including I. These are opportunities that we didn't have anybody to talk to us about. These are things that we just found out as we were going about our day-to-day work, but with our eyes and our ears wide open. My first board appointment, I sat down one day, I looked at my CV, and I said to myself that my law firm has a company secretarial unit, and we had just finished a board meeting. We had offered company secretarial, and I said to myself that most of what they are discussing there are things that I know I would intervene, so why can't I be a director? So I sat down, put my CV together, and told one or two people that I want to sit on a board. And before the year ran out, I got my first board appointment. And from there, I began to get different invitations to sit on boards. But what am I saying? You need resilience. You don't make it too much about money in the early stages of your career. It should be about gaining experience. I am not saying that you shouldn't leave. I'm not saying that you shouldn't bring the baking home. Not everybody has the wherewithal to do what I did, working without pay for 3 years. But then be more conscious of the space you find yourself, the people you move with, and what you're gaining from them, your ability to shed non-productive associations, and your ability to self-analyze and determine for yourself what you want for yourself. Right now, I'm semi-retired from Full Roberts & Co. When I started the law firm, I started that law firm with a vision. And that vision is not to make it a family-based law firm. I have relatives in my family who are lawyers. They're not working with me. I have a daughter-in-law who is a lawyer. She's not working with me. Anybody who comes into Full Roberts & Co., you have to learn the ropes. You have to start from the beginning if you're a member of my family, and you have to work your way to the top. About 2 years ago, we got our first organic partner, Mrs. Bukola Astropashagidigbe. She's a star. But she worked with Fumi Roberts & Co. after working in 1 or 2 law firms, and she's been with us since then. So when it was time to determine of our juniors who should be made partner, it was a very easy decision for us to make, because this lady treats the law firm as if she owns it. So it was very easy for us to make the decision to make her a partner. And I keep saying, and I'll keep repeating it, Rolling Stones gather no moss. Secondly, you set up your law firm and you don't know anything, such that, look, I can count, in fact, I can't even count the number of times when I have seen the products of some law firms and I've had to call the owners of the law firm and tell them that, look, this is the document you prepared for a client. It came to my attention because they wanted us to do something about it. And then I coached them. This is where you have made a mistake. These are things you need to do. And then I asked the question, how many years did you work before you set up your law firm? And sometimes they tell me, and I tell them that on this brief, I would not take the brief from you, because it was easy in those instances to tell the owners of the brief, the clients, that, look, this is rubbish. But I won't tell a client that. I'll rather call that young week, have a conversation, and ask that, look, I can introduce you to 1 or 2 of our partners who works in this space to teach you, to coach you. But interestingly, not all of them take up the opportunity. Sometimes they are like, what can they teach me in that law firm? But nothing beats experience. Nothing beats your ability to learn and keep learning and be dedicated to excellence. It is a lot of hard work. Nothing beats your ability to self-assess. And above all, nothing believes hard work. You cannot underestimate the importance of hard work. And the era of AI is going to take that away from you if you are not intentional. Because you can just do this for me, write a letter for me, write terms of reference for me, and in no time it gives it to you. That is not hard work. And believe me, it will show. Because the people you are going to be working with, your potential clients, are not going to be people of my generation. There are some people in my generation who would see AI produce work and not recognize it. But the people in your generation would notice it and then begin to ask you questions you're unable to answer. So do not let your dedication to excellence and avoidance of superficiality, your dedication to hard work, whether you are you are an arbitrator, or you are in the practice of law, or you are a judge, don't let it drop, because that is what is going to stand you out. It is going to be very, very tough. But like I said, you have to make a conscious effort not to place too much reliance on AI. And more importantly, learn how to use AI. Because some people believe in just putting in and you get the work delivered by AI. There are certain questions you need to ask. There are certain ways by which you can get the best even out of that AI. But the ability to do that is also ability to learn and understand how to use AI. The way some of your generation use AI is to use it superficially. And that is where the problem lies. And that is how somebody like me, who understands, who is taking a course on AI, can easily see through you. And don't underestimate what your clients would ask you, because they would ask you questions that you may not have the opportunity to go back to AI and ask. I know I have 20 minutes. I could go on and on. I have so much in me. And I always tell people that I want to die empty. I want to create opportunities where I can pour out everything that I have in me. And I want again to say thank you to those who've spoken before me, to say thank you to the conveners of this platform, and to say that you must not stop what you are doing. This is a fantastic platform. It is something that you should keep doing. And let me make an offer to you. I see that we have 99 plus. That means you've exhausted the number of people this platform can take. I have subscribed to a platform, Zoom platform, that can enable you to accommodate 500 people. And I'm willing to give you the use of that platform anytime you want to do this webinar again. Thank you very much indeed.
Please, so let us give a round of, they're already giving you a round of applause, but thank you so much for this offer. Like, I was already posting crying emoji on my WhatsApp system. I'm like, people are just sending me messages, we can't join, emails, and I just feel like crying. And I was the one telling them to register, because I have like 852 people registered. So you can imagine the
Wow.
number of people trying to join. It breaks my heart so much. So to get this offer accepted. With every gratitude in me, I accept the offer, please. No negotiations, is well accepted. We're going to reach out to you every time we're having mentorship and, this webinar to give us the access. I am super grateful. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma. Thank you
You're
so much.
welcome.
And I'm so glad I said that out here. Otherwise, this offer wouldn't have come. So thank you, ma. Okay, so let's have someone summarize, or should I just summarize it? Because maybe I should give myself the award. I was already correcting someone, that said nothing beats excellence. That was not what she said. She said nothing beats experience. So there's a difference. So do we have somebody? Okay, Mofetoluwa. Sorry if I didn't pronounce your name well. Mofetoluwa Adewale. Please give us a summary, and then Blessing second. So just between the two of you, and then we go on to the next speaker. So Mofetoluwa, over to you. Unmute yourself and summarize what Mrs. Robert has said so far.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for this opportunity. So, thank you so much, ma'am, and Mrs. Fumi Robert, for the opportunity. Now, I learned a lot from what she said. First of all, she started with a story like other speakers did, by saying that she started as an assistant lecturer in a school because of her good grades. And she went on to mention that she worked for free at a law firm for 3 good years, which I tag as the sacrifices she made to get knowledge, to get the experience she needed for what she wanted. Then she also mentioned about your self-determination. She mentioned about your self-determination. She mentioned that an organization is like a triangle and not everybody will get to the top. That is your hard work and your resilience that will stand you out in every organization you find yourself, whether a private or a public organization. Then she also mentioned taking up opportunities that sometimes some of these opportunities you get invited, some you are the one that will put in for the opportunities. But we should make sure we take up opportunities at every point in time. And she mentioned when she was invited to be the registrar of late Justice Kayode Esho, and she grabbed the opportunity, even though she didn't know anything about arbitration, which I see as a very bold and confident step as a young lawyer, that you should be able to take up any opportunity you see, even though you don't know about it. Then she went on to read about the aspect of arbitration. She read about the aspect of arbitration. She also did research with Dr. Olakule's Orojo book on arbitration. Then she also mentioned that you should build your attractive value proportions. Yes, which is like you should get more experience to build yourself. She mentioned also about networking, where she said she linked up herself with the person she calls
Okay, so
the father
Mufetolu,
of arbitration.
I think your time is up. You were to do this in 1 minute, just a
Okay,
summary of
okay.
everything that has been said. So are you done?
I'm almost back. I'm almost back.
So just wrap it up. I'm listening. Continue. Or are
We
you
should,
done?
and we should. No, ma. I'm still talking, ma. She said that we should take courses of specialization. We should be willing to pay the price for knowledge, and we should learn to use AI, but not rely ultimately on AI. That we should learn to use AI, but we should not rely on AI. And in everything, we should put in hard work and resilience. So that's
Okay,
what I
thank you
could take
very
from
much.
what she said.
Thank you. That was a very good attempt. Blessing, over to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you to Mrs. Roberts. I'll just give some of what she said using one of our popular phrases, which was "Rolling Stones gather no moss." So basically, what she was trying to emphasize was the importance of building competence and make people see the value of your work. So, and of course, this kind of went into AI reliant because of how many young lawyers are always caught up in the field of you know leaving the work to be done and using alternative means like AI. So she talked about how you can develop this competence. She means taking courses, if you have to take courses, nothing beats experience. So even when she talked about her studying like 3 years unpaid, but trying to own a skill. So whether you have to work on your own or whether you're in paid employment, the value proposition that you attach to yourself is very important. So even if you're in a green space, it's not an excuse for mediocrity. So at every point in time, you have to develop yourself, let people see the value of your work, build your resilience, um, have an ability to self-assess, hard work, learning, and keep learning. So just think it's some of what you said, and you avoiding superficiality and not underestimating what your clients can ask you, and developing excellence at all times. Thank you.
Okay, I think that was a fair attempt to both of you. I think the award will go to the first speaker. Please remind me your name. Mr. Adewale, please just remind me your first name. Mofetoluwa, right?
Mufetoluwa, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll now go over to the next speaker. The next speaker is Mr. Inyoluwa Adeoluwa. So I'm just going to quickly read his citation, and then he will speak to us in the next 20 minutes. Mr. Inyoluwa Adeoluwa is a lawyer, an entrepreneur, and the chief executive officer of Subhadi, a leading supplement and fitness brand in Nigeria. Beyond his business achievements, Inyoluwa is passionate about building systems, creating opportunities for young people, and positioning African brands to compete globally. He combines his legal background with a business mindset to navigate both corporate structures and entrepreneurial challenges with precision. He continues to inspire young professionals by showing how legal training can be a springboard into diverse, impactful ventures. Please let us give a round of applause to Mr. Adeoluwa as he starts speaking to us. Thank you very much, sir. Please, over to you now.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay,
I can
good,
hear you.
good. Hello, everyone. I feel very honored to be included in this webinar for young minds and lawyers now to me after law school. So yes, I'm a lawyer myself. I did law for 5 years, did law school. I even went on to study. I did my master's degree in law. So the question of what is out there for lawyers after law school and what I'll be talking about is, can lawyers have other opportunities aside from practicing law? And the short answer to that is simply yes. As a lawyer, your mind is already trained and primed to conquer many facets of life. You have already been imbibed with critical thinking. You know how to solve problems. And that is a very important aspect to building a career. You have to know how to solve problems. And solving problems in itself creates opportunities for career projection and for financial freedom. And we're lucky because we're in a country like Nigeria, and with Nigeria, there are so many problems. So there will always be career opportunities for anybody, lawyers or not. And especially as lawyers, we've already been given the gift of being very intelligent and being very learned. Now, talking about being a lawyer and opportunities outside being a lawyer, one thing that comes to play is passion. So if you're listening to me right now, and you are very passionate about being a lawyer, you want to be a lawyer, that's your passion, that's your dream since you were a child, you grew up, you study law, you are very happy to be a lawyer. Everybody has been calling you the law since you were small, and that is your pride. I would say even now, do not even think of anything else apart from law. Give it a very fair shot for multiple years. Now, the previous speaker before me, Mrs. Fumi Roberts, talked about working for 3 years without pay. And that comes into play in this because passion is important. If you are passionate about being a lawyer, passionate about something, you can work for 3 years without pay. But if you are comparing yourself to someone that has not been passionate about being a lawyer, that probably your family wanted you to be a lawyer, or you study law because you were in art class, so you didn't know what to study. Everybody was expected to study law because if you did not study law, will you do theater arts, will you do economics? If that's the kind of person you are, it's not going to be easy for you to study or to work for 3 years without pay. But sacrifice is in every aspect of what you do. If today you stop law and you do another type of thing, for example, you do entrepreneurship like me, you're going to have your periods of sacrifice, your periods of building that business without any immediate growth to your investment or to the level of investment you're putting into it. So that's why passion is very important. So if you want to be a lawyer, you're passionate about the law, let that passion fuel you. When you are working and you're not getting a salary, you know you have your dream of being a lawyer. But if not, I would advise you look inward. What is my passion? What can I do? Can this passion be enumerated? What problem can this passion solve? That is another aspect to it. Now, for me, using myself as an example, from the very beginning, I've been interested in fitness, into the fitness area of life. Even back as early as my 400 level, 500 level, I was already coaching people online. And when I went into law school, I already had clients that were much older than me that was already training online. And then now I've shifted into supplementation. So that passion has built over time. So you have to think about that, like, okay, what passion do I have? Do I like beauty and fashion? Do I like the tech aspect? Or whatever aspect, you have to think, okay, what am I passionate about? And how can that convert into financial freedom? And how can that convert to a skill? Also speaking about skills, if you are looking to step outward from law, well, not outward from law because law will always follow you. You would always be a lawyer. Even today, anytime my friends have any issue, they come and meet me, even though I'm not officially practicing law. They still meet me. Can you do this for me? Can you solve this case? Somebody said this. Somebody wants to sue me. Look at my tenancy agreement. Look at my land agreement. Look at this contract. Somebody wants to give me this pressing gig. That was always going to be with you forever as a lawyer, forever. But if you want to not practice law mainly, right? And let's say you are not sure what you're passionate about. Maybe you're passionate about music and you don't know how you can convert that into financial freedom. You need to develop skills, right? So you need to find skills like maybe video editing, graphics designing, anything that is a skill and can be learned and can be skilled. So whatever skill you want to learn must be something that can be skilled up. So also give you financial freedom. Now, a lot of people say money is not important or you should do this because you are passionate about it, you are learning, and the law is this. But to me, I do not agree with those people. I think money is very important. I think if you are going to do anything, even if it's going to be your passion, then money should be involved, or it should be a hobby. So if you have seen yourself in a situation where, okay, my passion is this, I like music, but does it skill enough to be a career? You should shift from that. You should have examples of people that you can look towards and you can write their names down. That, okay, this person did this person has done this and was able to scale like this. This person has done this and was able to scale like this. And interestingly in law, as lawyers, there are several examples of many people that study law and do not practice law as their main career source. And they have become very successful. I have done it, and I'm sure I'm not the only person that has done it. Many people have. So many people have gone to those careers and come back to study law just because they want the novelty that law has. Being a lawyer is a very beautiful thing. It comes with a lot of respect, a lot of novelty. And as lawyers, as everybody here that is a lawyer, you have already done something that is very incredible by achieving it. So after law school, there's nothing to be scared of. You can go into the law, if that is your passion, learn the ropes. You are going to put in your time without remuneration and knowing that, okay, this is the period I'm going to use to learn the skill of law, learn the practice of law. That is fine. But my advice would be, if that is not your passion, you will need to find it real quick and identify that, okay, this is my life. This is my life. I'm living my life. And I have known for a while that law is not my passion. But I'll not be able to admit it to myself, maybe because my whole family expects me to practice law or for whatever reason. Because now you are adults, we're all young adults here, but you're an adult now and you're holding the keys to your life. Your life is in your hands. There's one thing that's popular among the Gen Z people, they're like, sorry, nobody's coming to save you. You're an adult now. So you have to take a step back, look into your life and be like, okay, is the law my passion? Why do I actually want to do this? Would I do this if I'm not being immediately remunerated? And then think about it and think about the skills and think about how that can transcend into other aspects. So I'm going to try and use this to also answer the questions that were given to me. It said, what inspired you to give the active practice for fitness and entrepreneurship? So like I said, being a lawyer doesn't ever really completely leave you. So I wouldn't even say I've completely left being a lawyer. Because I still did like 2 or 3 cases today, this month as a lawyer, right? But what inspired me is what, like I said, passion. Once that you're passionate about, you see that you'll be coming there once in a while, even if you're not doing that thing, once in a while, you want to go to that thing, you want to go to that thing. And that's what really geared me towards that side. So entrepreneurship is different though. That is when you convert your passion into skill and convert that skill into financial freedom. And then the next question is, what advice would you have for lawyers that are fearful of leaving traditional law? My simple advice would be just to not be afraid. This is your life, and you have to decide, you have to be insistent on your own life, right? So if you are doing this for anybody, like, oh, my parents want me to be a lawyer, or everybody already expects me to be a lawyer, you will just simply have to stop because you have to take charge of your own life. At some point, it's going to come back at you. Maybe at 30 or 40, you spent your whole life doing something that does not fulfill you and you're not passionate about it. It's going to come back. So you have to take that one to yourself that, okay, this is my life. I have to take charge of my life, take reins of my life. And if you are scared, know that if you feel that being a lawyer, nobody's going to save you, right? Nobody's going to be like, oh, okay, at least you tried. When you need to pay school fees, nobody's going to be like, okay, Or he's a lawyer, that's why I'm going to pay this school fees. No, it doesn't work like that, right? It's not going to be like, oh, I need to try. So take charge of your life. Don't be scared. Anything that you choose to do, you're going to take sacrifice, you're going to take work, law or not law. So my own advice would be give it a try and fulfill your passions. I hope this helped a little. Thanks again. I'm done.
Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause for
Yes.
Mr. Adeoluwa. Thank you so much. So we're going to have somebody summarize what he has said for us, and then I'm going to now ask the targeted questions to all our speakers. So their speaking is not yet over because there are certain questions that we're going to ask them, and then you can now also ask because I'm going to now open the floor for the participants to ask. But in the meantime, Blessing, you've answered before, so I will need someone else. Emmanuel A, please do us the honors. Who else is raising their hands? Emmanuel A, please unmute yourself. Perpetua Aimufwa, right? So Emmanuel A and Perpetua, over to you. So in 1 minute, please, don't exceed the time. Go ahead.
All right, good evening, ma'am. So, what the last speaker actually spoke about is finding passion in whatever you are doing. Not just doing it because that's what everybody is doing, or because of the novelty. You are studying law because you have good grades in the arts, and you feel that that's the best course to study. Then you have to find a passion in it. You have to find a path where your passion lies, because without passion, you cannot really go far. He even actually referred to the sacrifices that Mrs. Fumi Roberts made of as regards to working without pay. So he was saying that without passion, she could not have done something like that. So you actually need passion. You have to find a passion. And the same thing applies when it now goes to you doing something out of law. You really have to have a passion. That is what will drive you. That is what will keep you. And then that the profession too as a whole is a noble profession that you still have something, is something novel, something prestigious that you still find something doing in it. There are a lot of problems that you can solve, that problems that you can find solutions to in the society. So I think that's like a summary of what the last speaker spoke about.
Okay, the second person I mentioned, Perpetua, do you still want to comment?
Okay, yes, thank
Okay, go
you.
ahead.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Inioluwa, for a great session. So what I learned, I like the way he put the three things in like a sequence. So it's passion first, skill, then financial freedom. Financial freedom does not come first. So it goes in that line. And the fact that your passion should follow everything that you do, because if what you're doing is not based on your own intentions, it will still haunt you in future. If you're living based on, oh, this is what somebody would say about me, and then you're not following what you actually want, it will later haunt you in future. So every decision that you make now after law school should come from a place of what you're passionate about. If it's law, then you know that you're supposed to learn the law, where to find law, what about. If it's not law, then you make the decision on time on what your passion is and what problems your passion can solve, and how you can all translate this into a skill that will later on earn you financial freedom. So yes, that's the summary.
Okay, I think that was well summarized, more summarized than Emmanuel, in my own opinion. So I think Perpetua sort of like had a way of summarizing it, breaking it into three, because I wanted to hear um that last line that you just said, the last point, which is what the speaker said. It's not enough to have passion for something, but what problem can that passion or skill solve? So he said if you have passion for something else, develop the skills in that area and then find problems that it can solve, because nothing will pay your bills. And then he said, then take courage and go after it, because if you're in law and you don't have passion for law, after a period of time, you may suck at it In other words, that's just using my own words. Now you may suck at it, and then nobody would pay you just because you're a lawyer. You have to offer some sort of services and using certain skill sets to now get your remuneration for your service. So, in my opinion, Perpetua did it well. I don't know if I will have a seconder, so that doesn't look like it's or do we all agree that Perpetua did it better? I mean, the speaker, you were the one that spoke to us. So let me throw it to you.
I I think virtually the little bit better, but I like the first person's opinion too.
Okay.
Yes.
Is this a tie then?
Now Perpetua was better, yes, because she broke it into three parts.
Someone else also said, in his opinion, is the first speaker. You know what? Let me just, so you voted for, so who are you voting for, Perpetua or Emmanuel? Just
I
say
vote for
one name,
Perpetua.
Perpetua.
Second person. Second person.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know if I don't know if the learner Silk is still with us.
Yes, I am.
So please, who do you think summarized it better?
I think the first person.
Okay. That is
I
um
think they both did a good job. They both did a good job. But if you compare me to pick one, I'll go for the first person.
okay, first person. So okay. My lord, Justice Ikpaye, I don't know if you can help us.
Yes, I'm still here. And have been listening closely to the presentations, even the main speaker, Mr. Deolua himself. And those that summarize, I think they both did a good job. And I would like that perhaps it's a tie.
Okay, so we'll split it then. We'll split it
Yes.
between them. Okay.
Okay.
All
I support a tie as well. I
Yeah.
support a
okay.
Yes, I
split.
support the tie as well. Support the
Okay, all
tie
right.
as well.
Okay, so Esther and Emmanuel, sorry, Emmanuel and Perpetua, you have a tie, so we'll know how to go about that. So this brings us to the end of the speaker's presentation. I now have some questions I would like to ask, and I will start with my lord. My lord, please.
Yes, I'm listening.
So the first question is, in transitioning from being a young lawyer to the bench, aside from the fact that you told us that you were already in the university before you were appointed, what enabled your decision? What was the key reasoning that backed that decision and enabled you to go for that journey? Was it simply because it was a better opportunity, or because you had passion for it? Because you told us you just went for it and it's not like you had any prior courts knowledge or something. So what gave you, because I'm sure that if I were in your position at the time, coming from the lecturer to the bench, I would think to myself, how do I confront these learned silks that will come to my courts and intimidate me? So I'm just trying to, how did you feel at the moment, and what eventually made you take that decision? Let me go to the bench.
All right. There is no doubt about it that there was a lot of trepidation in my heart as at that time. And I hope you can all hear me. There was a lot of trepidation in my heart that what is this that I am going into, transiting from the very familiar into the unfamiliar. And but I must confess, in the sense that success is always founded on hard work and integrity, and on the people you meet along the line. I mean, we're in the four walls of the university, far remote from whatever is going on, even in the law courts. But I can assure you that quite a number of people in the academia have successfully transited onto the bench. And one of the famous jurists that comes to mind is Professor Elias, Teslim Elias himself. He was the Dean of the Faculty of Law, University of Lagos, before he became Attorney General and eventually the Chief Justice of Nigeria. There's also Justice Nikki Toby of the Supreme Court. So quite a number have successfully transited. So I was in the university. I was working very hard. I was molding and shaping young minds as a lecturer. In fact, I had already submitted all my bundle of papers to become an associate professor of law when the invitation came. And the invitation came from somebody I couldn't really say no to. He was also a professor in my faculty at that time. In fact, he had become a professor of law, having been conferred with that professorship by the Faculty of Law, Lagos State University. And I'm talking about no other person than the former Vice President of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Oshibadu, GCON, I believe. So he wasn't vice president then. He had been working closely with the government of uh, the governor of Lagos State around about that 1999 when we transited again into Republican rule, into civilian rule. And so he was the Attorney General of Lagos State. But we had worked together in the university. He knew my work. He knew my dedication. He knew my integrity. So I believe that these are some of the things that just propelled him to give me a call that day and say, oh, Mrs. Epaye, I would like you to submit your CV. We're trying to do something new in Lagos State. And we want to just get the very best hands to become the next crop of judges in Lagos State. And I said, Prof, this thing, I want to become a prof like you. I wasn't really going in for this. He said, just submit your CV. And that was how I did. And the rest, they say, is history. I took it to God in prayer because everything that you do in life is always important to have a spiritual anchor to it. And so I took it to God in prayer. And I had the release that, okay, I should go. I must confess that when I first got to the bench, I was having withdrawal symptoms. I had to restrain myself. You don't be teaching the lawyers. No, they are supposed to say their piece. You are an impartial arbiter, umpire, dead silence, not too many questions. But I would say that my abilities as a jurist today is because of my background in academia. The ability to read copious materials in a short time. I had a short learning curve. I'm not just tooting my horns, but these are just some of the things, integrity and hard work always pays. So I would say those are the qualities that helped me to successfully transit to the bench and, even to get that invitation, the years of paying your dues, of working hard in wherever field that you find yourself, whether you are an entrepreneur like Mr. Adeoluwa, following your passion and doing something outside the space of law, but using your legal background to to propel and to fuel your passion. That's always something important. And I appreciate that question. I hope I've been able to answer it well.
Yes, my lord, you did. Thank you very much. So the second question is, can the judiciary play a role in improving the welfare of young lawyers? The NBA is doing their bits, and I think they've gone ahead to make a very remarkable improvement so far that we've been having conferences and meetings back to back. So this particular remuneration for young lawyers is one of the ways that I think we have been able to have a very good, significant improvement on that topic. So what I now want to know is, does the judiciary have any role to play? If they do, what are the roles that they can play in helping improve the welfare of young lawyers?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. I think that the judiciary has a good role to play. And I like to come at it in two aspects. First of all, I like to also acknowledge the presentation of the Learned Silk, Mr. Ikwazom, and I'm really delighted to learn about that. Is it remuneration code? I forgot how you expressed it, but you did say something that you were trying to, the NBA was trying to set minimum standards, as it were, that, okay, minimum standards, and then also to police law firms to ensure that they are complying with those minimum standards. Minimum standards are always a good place to start. So in that regard, I do not think that if we have any dispute as to unfair pay or unequal pay, that the National Industrial Court would not rise to do justice in such a dispute as between an employer and an employee. All right. And I think that they would definitely fall more on the side of an employee, especially if they can have an understanding that, well, whatever it is that is being paid is first outside of the contract, or it offends the minimum wages as set by the government, or that it is what we call unequal pay. Because I believe that under the Constitution of Nigeria, nobody should be discriminated against. And so a man and a woman should have equal pay so long as they have the same qualifications and they are they've been admitted into the same cadre of service. So that would be the first leg of my contribution. Now, the second leg of my contribution is that the Lagos State Judiciary is the pace setter in this regard. Sometime about 2004 or thereabouts, and I believe this must be during the tenure of Honorable Justice Augustine Adetula Alabi, when we decided to create a cadre of what we called then judicial assistants. And these judicial assistants were attached to, first of all, to the High Court judges as judicial assistants. They were to help the judges to conduct their research, to prepare outlines, to do summaries, and so on and so forth. That cadre has now been expanded, and we now call them legal registrars. So, and legal registrars are attached not only to the judges, but also to the magistrates. Again, their brief is the same: assist the judges in the work that they do. The work of a judge is an adjudicator, listen to both sides and come up with a position on how you're going to rule apply the principles of law to the facts that has been demonstrated in the trial court. So having said that, this is now akin to what we know in other jurisdictions as clerking. When law students or new wigs, as they are called in their own jurisdictions, when they clerk for judges. Now, that position is a very sensitive position. My experience that we have had in Lagos State is that these, we take them on as young lawyers. We mentor them. At least I mentor the ones that have been assigned to me. We mentor them. We guide them through the ropes until they have an understanding of what we expect from them. And so they do the work. I would admit that there is a high turnover. And that is, again, because they get so good at the work that they do, and then they're able to move on. Quite a number of my own judicial assistants I have mentored, I have encouraged, I have found them suitable to become magistrates, and quite a number of them have become magistrates even on the Lagos State bench or in other jurisdictions. So that is a plus. Then quite a number of them have transited to other to bigger firms, to law firms. So it's also a kind of learning curve for them. And so they are. I find it that it's a kind of cadre, and the beauty of it is that very many jurisdictions have copied what we're doing in Lagos State. So I understand that even right now at the Court of Appeal level, they have judicial assistants. At the Supreme Court level, they have judicial assistants. And they are just lawyers, principally young lawyers, and they get to clerk or to become judicial assistants for judges, which is a very sensitive and confidential, and it's a good training position for lawyers. So I think that to that extent, the judiciary is also contributing to the development of lawyers. Thank you very much.
Okay, my lord, just because of the idea I have at the back of my mind, I don't just want this webinar to be a position where we just come, we discuss certain things, and we can't implement anyone. Because in the course of organizing this webinar, I went ahead to speak to some law firms to give me slots so that participants, especially those in the university, can apply to work as interns. So some firms gave me 3 slots, some gave me 5, about 10 of them. I'm still writing to more firms. So because now you've mentioned legal assistants and legal registrars, is it possible to have bar aspirants who maybe during their vacation can apply as interns to learn what that is like even before they are called to bar? Is it possible
Okay,
to have
Chinasa.
such arrangements?
Chinasa, you are breaking the mold, and I like that attitude. You will have to do like a mini presentation or like write a letter, and that kind of letter would have to go to the Chief Judge of Lagos State. Already, I know that the judiciary takes law school students as externs. You know, they come in for a brief period, maybe about 6 to 8 weeks, and they see what is going on in the courts. They don't participate, but they listen to what it is going on in the court, and then they have audience with the judges or the presiding judicial officers, whether sometimes at the magistrates. So that already is the formal process in place. So I don't know whether you want to scale it up or
I would
to
like
perhaps.
to, because I think that when you're in law school and you're doing externship, the truth is, when I was in that situation, I was just reading my book. I come to court, I look at what is going on, then I go back to my book because I really, really want to just read and then make my exams.
Yeah,
But I think
well,
when
Penasa,
it's
you are
when it's
you
internship, they will pay more attention to what is really, really going on ground. I'm not being in a hurry to rush back, but I agree with you. I'm going to write a formal letter. Just that when I
yeah,
come, my
I
lord,
think you
please,
can
I'll
do
go
that.
through
I
you. I'll
think
write it through you.
no, you can't write it to me. You have to write it straight
To
to
the
the
chief
chief
judge.
judge. Yes,
Okay,
straight
all
to the
right.
chief judge. Now, let me
Okay.
say another thing. Law school students, those that are on this program and who are currently on, in the law school, I find that because over the years they've been coming to my courts as far back as the time I was appointed. So over the years, it's an annual thing. They come to my court. I monitor them very well. Maybe because of my background as in
Lecture.
academia, I set rules for them. They must be seated. I make the space for them in my court, and I'm sure that Leonard Silk has probably seen some of them in my courts. And I always say, oh, we have law students in our midst, and I implore the lawyers who are, having matters before me to speak loud and slowly so that the law students can catch
My
and
lord,
understand
I can
what is
confirm
going on.
that.
Yes, so that they can understand what is going on. And I always invite them back to chambers, and I drill them, I give them assignments. Again, like I said, maybe it is because of my own background in academia. So any opportunity that I have to teach, I just love teaching. And as a final word to you, Chinasa, since this is the third edition, I've missed the first edition and the second edition, but you called me up while I'm still on vacation, on my annual vacation, and I said yes. So when we're doing the fourth edition, call me wherever I am in the world, then whether on vacation or in Lagos, then I can assure you that I will be loving to participate in future webinars that you are putting together or going to convene.
Thank you, my
So
lord.
thank
Thank
you
you very
very
much.
much. All right.
I sincerely appreciate that. Thank you so much. Okay, so we'll now go over to the learner Silk. So we have some questions for you, just few targeted questions. And the first one is, when you were starting up in your career, before you got to the rank of senior advocate, what is the single biggest mistake you think young lawyers make when trying to grow? Maybe you saw it in your own experience, or since ever you became a partner, or you have been seeing young lawyers trying to grow in their career. What do you think is a single biggest mistake that they keep repeating so that those of us here would learn from that? And then, secondly, are seniors doing enough? When I mean seniors, I'm talking about senior lawyers in the bar. Are they doing enough to mentor and employ young lawyers? Maybe I can remove employment from there because law firms at the end of the day can only take a number that they are able to take and pay salary. But are they doing enough to mentor young lawyers? Um, and then what more can they do? I think those are my two questions.
Okay. Thank you very much. So regarding your first question, I don't think, I mean, from my experience, I don't think that there's one single most serious mistake that young lawyers make. I think young lawyers make a number of mistakes that I consider quite serious. And I'm just going to maybe talk about two or three. I think that number one for me is I see a lot of young lawyers who do not accept delayed gratification. They just want to, they just want immediate gratification. They come in, they see seniors who are living well, in quotes, driving nice cars, and they forget that some of these people have been doing this business for years. Mrs. Roberts just told us that she's been practicing for 45 years. My Lord Justice Ipaye was called to the bar in 1985 or 84. So I see it a lot, and it's a very big problem in my view. And I will also, give you a personal example, not because I want to gloat but in the hope that someone may take, one or two lessons from my own experience. So in my fifth year at Alukanebode, even before I got into Alukanebode, I had been offered employment in the legal department of one of the big banks, and one of my uncles, played a role in facilitating that employment. But I turned it down. And I said to my uncle that, look, if I wanted to work in a bank, I would have studied banking and finance and not spend 5 years at the university and going to the law school to do 1 year. And this is not me saying that there's anything wrong with working in a bank, but I was focused on what I wanted to do. I wanted to practice law, and I wouldn't allow anything to distract me. At the time that this offer was made, what the bank was going to pay was almost more than 3 times what my firm was going to pay. Obviously, at that entry level, you don't compare what banks and other corporate organizations are able to pay with what law firms are able to pay. But because I was focused, I really wanted to do law. I wanted to become a senior advocate of Nigeria. My mind was set on what I wanted to do. I turned it down. And then in my fourth year in Alukanebode, I also got an offer of employment from one of the top 4 accounting firms because I had started to do tax at the time. I had attended a tax event. Maybe it was the contributions I made that got the attention of a partner in one of the large 4 accounting firms. Again, they made an offer to me, and they were going to pay a lot more than what my firm was paying, but I turned it down as well. So I tell this story to explain that as a young lawyer who wants to succeed in the profession, you have to make up your mind what you want to do, what you want to be, and once you make up your mind, you need to be focused on where you're headed and not allow, immediate financial gains to distract you. So that one mistake I see a lot of young lawyers make. And I think Mrs. Roberts also hinted at it. You come in, you're focused on money. By all means, I encourage law firms and employers of lawyers to pay them very well because the economic situation in the country at the moment is tough. But the point I make is that while you have a right to earn a living wage, all your focus shouldn't be on immediate gratification. You have to understand that there's a process and that you have to go through that process to get to where you really want to be. And the second mistake is related to the first. Because a lot of young lawyers, are focused on immediate gratification, that, causes them to cut corners, do things that are unethical, whether they are working in a firm or they are running their own shop. You see a lot of them do things that are unethical. The other time, I was looking at a publication that was made by the LPDC, and I was amazed at the sheer number of our colleagues who are facing disciplinary proceedings at the LPDC because of infractions, breaches of the rules of professional conduct. The other problem I've seen also is intellectual arrogance. Again, I think Mrs. Roberts hinted at it as well when she made her own presentation. You need to understand that what you have been taught at the law school provides a very good foundation for you to build on. But there are so many things that you do not know. There are things that you have to learn on the job. So you should, accept corrections when you make a mistake and that's pointed out to you. You have to accept it. You must have the humility to learn, because like I said, a lot of things that you actually need to succeed at, as a lawyer, you're not taught at the law school, even non-technical issues. Because when you talk about managing a law firm or running a law firm or succeeding as a lawyer, there's a lot more to doing that than just technical knowledge, even though I consider technical knowledge to be very important. A lot of the things that are required for success, like how do you client development, client management, business development, how to attract talent. These are not things that they teach you at the law school. So you must have the patience and the humility to learn these things from people who are senior to you in the profession. So those are some of the mistakes that I have seen young lawyers make. The second question is on mentorship, whether I think that senior lawyers are doing enough. Let me be clear. The truth of the matter is that many senior lawyers are dealing with financial and economic headwinds. They are struggling to break even in their practices. So they may not have all the time in the world to mentor, right? I know that most structured firms, like Mrs. Roberts, for example, will not have any difficulty providing mentorship to the young lawyers who work with her. In Alukanebode, we have, a robust mentorship program for our young lawyers. The problem I see is with lawyers who are not able to get into these structured practices. Of course, we've acknowledged the fact that there are just so many lawyers, young lawyers, that the structured firms can take. So those who are not able to get into these firms, to benefit from the mentorship programs that the firms run internally, what happens to them? And that's where I think that the NBA should come in. The NBA should, come up with a mechanism that ensures that, these kinds of lawyers get mentored. For example, when I was chairman of the NBA Lagos branch between 2017 and 2019, one of the things that we did was, we set up a continuing legal education and mentorship committee. And the mandate that we gave to the committee was to provide both group mentorship and what we called speed mentorship and one-on-one mentorship. So under the speed mentorship program, we would go to a leader in the profession, say a Dr. Babalake or an Aswe Godalo, a Bengo Ebode, or a Professor Consola Ajay, and then we would say, look, we need you to have a mentorship session with our young lawyers. We'll get a group of young lawyers, bring them. We encourage the mentors to dress informally, just to break the ice. So you have a Professor Consola Ajay showing up in a pair of jeans and then sitting with, the young lawyers to essentially tell them his story, the things that he did that worked out well, the mistakes that he made, and all of that. So that was the speed mentorship. But we also had the one-on-one mentorship, where we brought together 200 young lawyers and we paired them with 200 mentees, drawn from all of them Nigerians, but in different parts of the world. Some of them were lawyers in law firms in New York, in London, in Europe. We paid them for a period of 6 months to mentor them. So the point I make is, I think we can do a lot more in terms of mentoring young lawyers. But given that senior lawyers are very, very busy, it will be difficult to expect them to go out on their own to seek out people to mentor. But if there is a platform, maybe provided by the local branches, by the national MBA body, by the section on business law, section on legal practice, all the sections of the MBA, if they provide platforms, I'm sure that many senior lawyers will be more than happy to sign up to these mentorship programs. Thank you.
Okay, sir, thank you very much. I'm already getting questions in the chat box and they're directed to you. But let me just ask the round question and then I'll come back for the ones that the participants are already dropping in the box. And thank you very much. I hear you when you mentioned the list of mistakes. I've decided to put every conversation together and send it out so that it will have it be in a permanent form and people can easily read it. The mistakes that young lawyers make and how they should, be patient enough to and not be moved by financial gains. Then the issue of mentorship, I'm coming back there because I'm starting a program also for mentorship. While we're waiting for MBA, I'd be very glad if you can be one of our mentors, but that will be a conversation we'll still have off camera. But thank you so much. I really appreciate the angle from which you took and answered the question. Okay, now coming down to Mrs. Fumi Roberts. Our question to you is...
Sorry, can I quickly say this? I need to catch a train and I'm running very, very late. So the earlier I can get out of
Okay, so we'll just ask you
the
this question
better.
and
Yes.
then it's just two
Yes.
questions, ma. And we're going to wrap up quickly because we're also like 30 minutes behind time. Okay, so the first question is, arbitration is growing in Nigeria, but it often feels closed off to new lawyers. How can young lawyers realistically position themselves for opportunities in arbitration and ADR? And then what are the key professional values that key professional value that sustained you throughout your own career? I'm sure you've mentioned one or two of them in your story, but just give us like pointers so that we can easily put it out there for young lawyers to read, those of them that could not join us here.
Thank you very much. And let me quickly say this. There is none of the qualities that have been shared by Justice Ikpaye and Lanet that does not apply to arbitration. Anything you want to do, you have to put in the effort. I see people tell me I keep saying it. How can you say you want to be an arbitrator and you've not read the law that governs arbitration? You've not put in all the work. Some people tell me, I want to be your registrar. And I invite them, come for this meeting. After the meeting, prepare the minutes and send me the procedural order. And they don't come back. So you just have to want it and want it very, very badly. And that is why I align with what the last speaker said when he said, you must be passionate about it. People told me that before I can become a fellow, I would have had to spend 4 years doing all the exams. I can't pass it in less than 4 years. I passed the exams in 2 years because all I was doing during that time, apart from my regular legal work, was arbitration, ADR, arbitration, mediation. But I find that many people don't want it that badly. It's just a fad for some of them. And some of them believe that, going to court, getting adjournments is too much work. Let me go into arbitration and ADR, forgetting that it is just as hard a work as any other. It's even easier to be a judge than to be an arbitrator. I keep telling people that because the lawyers do all the work for you in arbitration or in litigation, but not so in mediation. Mediation is a lot of hard work. It is even more hard work than arbitration. And in arbitration, most of the time you're on your own. And you only need to have a counsel who is very good in arbitration appear before you as an arbitrator and see that you don't know your onions. And it trips you off. And you've lost the plot. So it is basically what we've been talking about. People come to me, come and mentor me. I remember the last webinar I did, people were asking for my phone numbers. And I got a call, Mrs. Roberts, should we share your number with them? I said, go ahead and share the phone number. But you realize that if you share my phone number with 10 people, perhaps 1 or 2 of them will contact me. They must have given my phone number to God knows how many of them. Only 1 person contacted me. So even when we talk about mentorship, like Leonard Silk said, I'm not going to go around looking for mentors. And you must realize that your mentors are very busy people. You are the one who's, any space you find yourself, you are the one going to determine what you get out of that space. If you go for a conference in Malawi and you spend the time shopping, that's what you want out of that conference. But if you attend if I go for IBA conferences, I don't go to all the sessions. When I used to go, I go for the sessions on arbitration and mediation because that's my interest. So you have to determine exactly what you want. And I said, do a self-analysis. Don't take it as a fad and do it because others are doing it. In terms of what key professional values, we tout this word so much. We talk about integrity. Everybody talks about integrity. Many people don't understand what integrity means. And they see it as just a single word, but it is something that is multifaceted. When you talk about integrity, you're talking about reliability, your honesty, your meeting and exceeding your client's expectations, punctuality, keeping your word. All those are all encapsulated in this word that we all call integrity. You must be able to deliver what you have promised your client. And part of integrity is not just about honesty, it's also about hard work. And then I mentioned Rolling Stone gathers no moss. Young people have employed young lawyers who are doing very well in a law firm. All of a sudden, maybe a young tech company that has come into millions of naira offer them money. Maybe 3-4 times what you're offering. And they're like, oh, we want to resign, I want to go. And sometimes I tell them that it's a waste of talent. What you're going to be doing in-house, this is the type of work you're going to be doing. You are too bright to go there. And believe me, more often than not, they come back to me, Mr. Roberts, I'm so tired. I'm doing the same thing. I'm just writing letters there. They said, and that is what Lanet Silk is trying to tell you. Sometimes all you see is the money. You don't see far beyond today. And that is one thing I tell young people. Your focus should not be on today. Your focus should be asking yourself, when I'm in my 50s, when I look back, when I'm in my 60s, when I look back, what do I want to have achieved apart from my personal life, in my profession? What do I want to have achieved? And that should be your guiding force. How do I want to define success for myself? Do I want to define success as a housewife? Go for it. Or as a company secretary, legal advisor, go for it. But then be mindful of some of the things you'll be losing. Some of the things I regret today was not going into leaving litigation. And somebody warned me, late governor of Ondo State, Arakunrin Rotimi Akeredolu, when I told him I was focusing on solicitor's work alone, he called me and said, Fumi, do you know that you're a brilliant litigator? I've seen you in court. I've come across you before. Why do you want to leave litigation? I said, look, I go to court most of the time. It's to take dates and so on. He said, don't leave litigation, stay on. I refused. But if you ask me today, that is one regret that I have. And it is because I undercapacitated myself. I underestimated my capacity because I could easily have done it. So it is important for you to be razor focused and be clear about what you want. The last speaker talked about passion. When people tell me, oh, I want to be a lawyer, I want to succeed, and they tell me, yeah, but I have a sewing outfit. I have a nail factory. I'm doing this. I said, I don't know how to do that. The only thing I've done in my life is law related. Every space that I've worked, everything that I have done is law related. Arbitration, mediation, they are all related to my practice of law. If you tell me to sell clothes today, I will fail at it because it is of no, and it doesn't have anything to do with law. If you want to be a businesswoman, go into business and be the best you can. If you want to be in oil and gas industry, not the legal department, go into it and be the best. But if you want to be a senior advocate of Nigeria, eat and dream it. And from there, it is a springboard to so many other things you can do. I've given you the example of sitting on boards. You can be, I know the MDs of banks today, chairmen of banks today, who are lawyers. You are in a profession that is so versatile, but it is about dedication and your ability to just focus on where your goal is and not be distracted by what others want or what suits others. Write your own story. Own your own story. Let that story be yours and dream it, work it, and work it on a daily basis. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mal. Just because you are leaving us, I'm also taking permission from other speakers, please. Let me just ask you, so if you were called to bar today, aside from the litigation that you regret, what would you do as a young lawyer called to bar today? Now, this is in a way of saying, what would you do differently from what you've done, aside from you having regrets from litigation?
What would I do that I would, perhaps I would not, and you know, it's a very difficult question to answer. And I'll tell you the reason why. When I started after law school, I wanted to do so many things. I started from wanting to be a professor. And then at some point I said, do I want to be a judge? And then I said, no, I want to practice law. And what made me come to that realization is the fact that I did a critical self-analysis. I looked at me and my lifestyle. I am a people's person. I love people around me. And then I read the story. Somebody said, you want to be a judge? Read the autobiography of Lord Denning. And I read it and I said, I can't live the life of a Lord Denning. A life of a recluse. I looked at all the successful jurists surrounding the judges, and I said, I can't live like Justice Kayode Esho. He doesn't go anywhere. All he does is his work. I like being amongst people. And if I go on the bench, I am going to be miserable because I can't live the kind of lifestyle of a judge. And I said, Fumi, your best bet is you want to remain in the legal profession, go into law, into the practice of law, and leave all this professorship, because why the salary of a professor is not enough for me. And I just lost interest in teaching completely, even though I've found myself in that cycle again, because right now I'm writing a book that I would have written if I was still in teaching. So what would I have done differently is a question that it depends on the nuances and circumstances in each case. And I've said it, the main regret I have is not going full course into litigation. And perhaps another regret is not opening up my law firm early enough to attract partners. Right now, I have three partners. I wish I'd started earlier. Maybe the law firm would have been bigger than it is today, because my partners are fantastic and they're doing a lot to grow the firm. Now, let me quickly say this. When I said Rolling Stone gathers no moss, many people misunderstood what I meant. And what I mean is sustain pressure on yourself to focus on what you want to do, not jump from one place to another, from one job to another, and so on. And I gave the example of Bukola. Bukola has been with us. She works as if she owns the law firm. She gives it her all. Even when she was earning practically nothing, she would work as if she owns the law firm. And today she's one of our partners. She's one of the visible members. If you tell me to go and meet, I'm right now out of the country. And if you tell me to go and meet the president, I'll tell you, unless you are going to give me a private jet to bring me, I won't be able to go. But Bukola is somebody, look, Can somebody else go come in my set? She's one of those that are put forward to go and meet the president. And it is because she has earned it. And you have to earn your success. If it is given to you on a platter of gold, believe me, you won't appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. I really appreciate. Thank you so much. Please, a round of applause for Mrs. Fumi Roberts. Thank you for staying with us up to you now. I know, I understand you
I'm
have to leave.
sorry.
Thank you so
Yes, I
much
have to catch
for
a
even
train.
joining us. I know the
Thank you.
last time we had, I think during the dry run or something, one of our calls, you said you were in Egypt or so. So I understand you're always on the move, but thank you for creating time for us. And we're still going to reach out
Thank
to you
you.
more and more because we're looking for mentors. So thank you so
And
much.
by the way, NBA Women's Forum has a mentorship program.
Awesome.
So
Okay.
please please, I can give you the contact person of the person in charge, contact details of the person in charge.
Okay. I'll
So
reach out
thank
to
you
you
very
for that.
much indeed.
Yes. So
Yes.
everyone here, I've told them to join a particular link so that all the information will still be circulated within that group. So thank you so much, Ma, for staying with us. Then I'm now going to ask the same questions to um our speaker, Mr. Adeoluwa. Please, are you still with us? I just really want us to hurry. So if just help me,
Yes, I am.
yes, just help me summarize your answers because I'm getting a lot of questions on the chat box. Let them ask the question and then we can call it a day.
Okay, so the question was,
So my question to you is, what inspired you to leave active practice for fitness and entrepreneurship, which I think you already answered in your speech
yes,
when you said
yes.
you just saw that, you've always liked fitness. So the other one is, what advice do you have for lawyers fearful of leaving traditional law? I think you also
Which I
answered it.
also answered.
Yeah,
Yes.
so just tell us for now, if you had been called to bar today, what is the first thing you would do? I think that question is supposed to be answered by those in active practice. Do you agree with me? But if you have answers, still share with us. As per, you're
I
not in
think that question is
practice,
best
so
answered by people in
yes. So
active
if you are called
practice,
to bar
actually.
today, yeah,
Yes.
it's the same thing. So
Yes.
I'm just going to now address the question to the learner's silk.
Okay.
So what would you do right now if you were called today? What are the opportunities you see that you think young lawyers are not really, really utilizing?
Honestly, this is a difficult question for me because I don't think I have any regrets. If I was called to the bar today, I would probably have, followed the same trajectory that I followed when I was called to the bar. The closest thing to a regret that I have is not so. I in 2008 I did an LLM at Columbia University, and one of my professors wanted me to stay back for a few years and do a PhD, but I needed to come back to work to make money, and I said I would go back to do it, and it's almost we're in 2025 now. 17 years later, I've not been able to
So you're already an
go back.
ACN. I'm sure that
So,
covers for your doctorate degree.
so that's it. But honestly, I really wanted to practice law. I was very clear in my mind that I wanted to practice law. I wanted to do litigation, and that I wanted to do so in a good firm. So after my call, like I said, I came to Lagos. Searched for the top law firms, applied to them. As God would have it, I got into Aluka neighborhood, and I've been there. And it's a point to also make to young lawyers. What Mrs. Roberts said. You really, once you decide that this is what you want to do, you really need to give it time. Work at it, give it time. I've been in Aluka neighborhood now for I think 20, 25 or 26 years, you know. Um, and that's not because I didn't get other opportunities that would have meant more money, but because it was clear to me what I wanted to do and where I wanted to do it. And that's what has kept me. So I don't think I would do anything differently. I would have still followed the same trajectory if I was called to the bar today.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Um, let's quickly rush to the comment section. And okay, for those that want to ask question, Do I still have somebody who wants to ask question, or should I just read what we have in the chat box? Because our speakers really have to go. Does
Yeah,
anybody
Chinas,
have
I
a
was going to make
question?
the point. I have a meeting that's starting in another 15 minutes.
Okay. Okay, sir. I understand. So any question? Let me just read out the one that was directed to you. This person said, please, I have a question for the learner Silk, sir. In your earlier presentation, you emphasized the importance of specialization in law. At what stage in one's legal career would you advise a lawyer to specialize in a particular area of law?
Okay, let me be clear about one thing. Uh, when we talk about specialization, uh, what I mean is, you being known for something. I wasn't talking about you just focusing on just one thing and not doing any other thing. So I'm known as a tax lawyer, but I also do general litigation. In fact, the cases that I've done before my Lord Justice Depaye have not been tax matters. And it's because, you know, um, the size of a country's legal market is impacted by the size of the economy, right? And if I may digress, in 2008, I read an article in The Economist that suggested that Nike, the sports company, its turnover in 2007 was larger than Nigeria's national budget. So if you have a Nike as a client, it's the equivalent of having Nigeria as a client. Now, we don't have such humongous companies here, right? And the kind of fees that a lawyer can generate from one client in the US or in the UK, for example, you can't get it here. So Nigerian lawyers end up doing bits and pieces. But even in doing bits and pieces, there's nothing that stops you from, being known for something. You can be doing general litigation, but you're known as a tax lawyer, you're known as a maritime lawyer, you're known as an IP lawyer, and all of. So that's what I meant by specialization, and it can happen at any time. In Alukanwe, but what we do is that when new weeks come into our firm, we have a process of rotation. We rotate them among the different practice groups that we have. So we let them do litigation, intellectual property, maritime, tax, business advisory, oil and gas, energy. And then after a couple of years, they begin to have a sense of, which of the practice groups that they want to join. And when they join, they can seek specialization in that practice area. So to answer the question, I would say, as a young lawyer, open yourself up to different things, then find out what you have the most passion for, and then you can seek a specialization in that field. So it doesn't have to happen in year one. Maybe by the time you get to your third year or fourth year associate, you're beginning to get a sense of what you have passion for, and then you can start to think of specializing in that practice area.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. We have a senior colleague because when I was planning this webinar, I wanted to have a representative from the bar, the bench, arbitrator, litigation, just sort of like everybody in the legal profession. I couldn't get a public servant or a civil servant, but there is someone, Mr. Chisomu Biokoye. He's, I think, an in-house counsel. He has done his bit in the corporate world, and he has a few words to say to us. So he will make the comment, and then we can call it an evening. But thank you very much. So, Mr. Chisomu Biokoye, over to you.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Very well, sir.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much. This has been a very insightful session. In fact, I learned so much from my lord, from the Leonard Silk, from Mrs. Roberts, and in Elua as well. So I think I would just start by sharing a very short story about an experience I had. So sometimes the technical skills is not everything in terms of job search. There are so many other things that one might need to consider. You need to know when you are also the problem. So a couple of years back, we were reviewing some CVs for someone who was applying for, I think it was an internship or an associate role. And the application letter we received, it was headed to whom it may concern, and then followed by some generic application. And then that was not the worst part. The worst part was that the person actually copied all the different potential employers in the same email. It's like, here's my CV, you all choose me. So the point I'm trying to make is that you also need to understand certain niceties or certain nuances that apply to securing your role even after you graduate. Now, in particular reference to working as an in-house counsel, unfortunately, working as a corporate lawyer or working as an in-house counsel is not something that is addressed in so much detail in both the university and the law school. So what you find is that it's usually limited to company law. In fact, in law school, I remember the entire focus was on corporate law, you be the company secretary. But then you realize that there is a whole world out there when you practice in-house. And by that, I mean, it is not just being a lawyer. Now, when companies are looking for somebody who's going to work with them as an external counsel or an in-house counsel, one of the key things that they're looking for is somebody who, one, understands the business and somebody who is actually in a position to use the law to put the business at an advantage. So you're not coming in there to tell them what they can or what they cannot do. They expect you to be a business partner, which means, in fact, as an in-house counsel, I speak more business than I speak law, because what the company expects me to do is to use the law as an enabler for that business. So whatever we need to do is, how can we get this done? And then how can we get this done within the bounds of the law? So when you, as an upcoming lawyer, and you want to go in house and all of that, you get to a point where you want to apply or you want to speak with somebody who may be open to employing you. One of the first things you need to start researching is what that business does. That is where every conversation starts, because they're looking for somebody who understands the risks that are present in the business and how the legal team can manage that. So as part of what I do, I work with virtually all the departments in the business. And what the Leonard Silk was talking about earlier is something that I found so insightful, especially in the context of this conversation. So let's say, for instance, let me use my career path as an example. So I started my career working with a law firm in Lagos, but I've always known that at some point I wanted to go in house. So I started having conversations with seniors to understand the different skills and the different knowledge set that may be required, and that had me. And one of the things I learned is that as an in-house lawyer, you need to know a bit of everything, which means you're not just, even though you need to have your strengths in specific areas, right? You also need to be able to speak, because at some point you're advising the employment team, at some point you're the HR team, at some point you're advising the sales, finance, and different areas. So I worked with the litigation team, found myself with the employment team, found myself with the corporate commercial, and all of that. So by the time I decided to go in-house, I was already in a position where I had fair knowledge of different aspects of the law that allowed me, even while I'm in-house, to have conversation and speak to everybody in the company. So because of time, I will stop here. But one key thing I would say in working in-house is that you need to be, one, consider yourself a business partner. Two, you need to be able to drive value. There was a conversation about remuneration, but that remuneration, it doesn't come on thin air. There has to be value attached to that remuneration. So the more you expect to be paid, you have to also know that there is so much expected of you in terms of value that you will bring into the business. And then the last thing I would say in terms of that is diversify your legal skills and put yourself in a position where the business can trust you. Thank you very much. I think I'll stop here.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Chisomubi. Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate. I guess that is all for the question I have from the participants, which means we all listen very attentively, and then we have, okay, I'm a law student, but I have passion for politics. How do I manage my passion alongside my law path to achieve success? Olaita Daniel, I don't know, is your question directed to any particular speaker? So we'll just take this as the last question, and then so that we can allow the speakers to go. The learner silk needs to go for another meeting. So the learner silk, I don't know if you'll be able to take this question. This person said he is interested in politics and how he wants to know how we can manage it alongside his legal path to achieve success.
Honestly, I have no idea how he can do that. My advice to him would be to focus on politics. And then after politics, like we've seen the likes of Osita Chidoka do, he can come back to law. I don't know how to manage politics and law, to be honest.
Okay. So, my lord, do you have anything to add?
Yes, just give me a minute. I was just trying to say to myself that the Lancet Silk has given a very diplomatic answer. Politics and law, they are, bedfellows in a way, because it is law that drives politics. But sometimes you may say the politics also drives the law. As a young man, well, I also, he will have to choose one in the first instance. If he wants to spend some time being a very good lawyer and then get into the political space in whatever way and manner he desires, that could be okay. But make a name for yourself as a lawyer. Very many lawyers are in the political space. You all know about that. And so they are not strange bedfellows. But whichever one that is gripping your heart the most, if it is politics and you really want to, you are a people's man, you really want to push the frontiers of democracy and go all out and do something for your people, for Nigeria, and that is the one that is attracting you, then who am I to sit in judgment? Just follow your passion. As I wrap up, because I really must go, I must just leave you with a few words. Always try and follow your passion. Let your passion drive you. Money is not everything. Sometimes you don't even have the money to execute your plans, but let money be the last consideration. Just follow your passion first. And then, of course, you can never, never step away from hard work. Hard work is always important. Hard work will get you 3/4 of the way. Then grace of God will help you. All right. And then, of course, as we have been saying, your connections, the people you meet along the way, they are also going to, either open up some doors for you, close some doors for you, help you to climb through a window. So it's always important to hone up your people skills as well. All right. Be somebody that is approachable, be a friendly person, but trust in yourself, believe in yourself. Because we're talking to new wigs now, or young, those who are still very young. You really need to believe in yourself, all right, and let nobody tell you otherwise. As you have to protect your own self-esteem, you have to, be your own best advocate, all right. And like everybody, all the speakers have been saying, you really must have a plan. What do you plan for your life? You have only one life. And if you are very lucky, you have 80 years of it. Now, if you are already 25, that means that we have just about 60 years to play with now. All right. So you must have a plan. What exactly would you want to do with this, your God given 60 years? All right. And this is the time to plan for it. All right. To plan for it. In which space? What is my driving passion? If it's this law, let me work hard at it. If I want to become a senior advocate, like the Lancet Silk, let me emulate him. Let me get closer to those who are also of like mind. And you begin to work hard at that. Okay, so thank you very much. It's been a
Thank you very
pleasant
much, my lord.
opportunity
Thank
for
you.
me to be here, and I appreciate your invitation. So we'll talk later, Chinasa, and
Thank you so much. Okay,
you will have to permit
your
me to leave
final
this
words.
space now.
Okay.
I think I've just said my final words.
No, no, no.
Is let your
I'm speaking to the learner silk, ma.
Oh, okay. All right, I understand.
I would like to adopt everything that my Lord has said, but to add that young lawyers, young people should know that nobody owes them anything. You have to make your reign, as it were. Um, one thing that one big advantage that young people have is that they are more attuned to technology than the older people. So embrace technology. One of the things that technology has done is to democratize knowledge. So today you don't have to pay big money to attend a training to be able to get information. Virtually everything that you want, every piece of information that you need, you can find on the internet. Make use of it, and continue to develop yourself. There is no alternative to personal development, no alternative to hard work, no alternative to diligence. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Um, this webinar is really, really very insightful, not just because that word is something everybody always uses, but because I'm truly honored to have had the speakers. So I'm saying a very special thank you to my Lord Honorable Justice Oye Baye. As you've heard, my Lord is currently on vacation, but still created time. And even the time zone is not even the same, but she still made time to speak to us. My Lord, your presence has really helped this webinar. In fact, it contributed to the members you see today present. And I must confess, I gained so much from you before even this webinar. And thank you for agreeing to answer when I called. Leonard Silk, thank you so much. Leonard Silk, you don't know, but I was once an intern when I was in 200 level in Alukano Yebode. And I saw how busy the firm is, how busy all the lawyers were, and I can understand how tight your schedule is. To be honest, let me confess, at some point I was even scared. I was like, I don't know if Lennox will be able to make it. In which case, I would have also understand. But thank you so much for adding this webinar to your schedule. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. And thank you
Thank you.
for having me.
Thank you, sir. So, Mr. Inulua, thank you also. I don't know if you have any closing words for us. I forgot to ask you, but thank you for also agreeing to join us. And I must say as well that you are also a very busy person. I remember that when I wanted to do dry run with you, we couldn't do it during the daytime because you were very busy. You said, okay, let's do it in the night. And in my mind, I was like, this man is supposed to be resting, but you still agreed to do that dry run. So I'm very grateful to all the speakers for sharing their time, to Mr. Chisom Ubiokoye for stepping in. Even though he had another meeting, he decided to just shift it because of this webinar. Thank you for sharing your time, your knowledge, and your ideas with us. And I will share a communique just to summarize everything that has been said and put it in a permanent and easily accessible form so that all young lawyers can benefit from it. And then to all our participants, thank you for joining us today. This webinar wouldn't have happened without you, because if I called all the speakers and there's nobody to talk to, I don't know how I'll explain it. So thank you so much. And I know that Mrs. Fumi Roberts is not here, but I'm also very grateful to her for joining us and for giving us access to use her Zoom platform next time. So I hope you all gain clarity, inspiration, and practical takeaways from everything we've said today. So now you know that you can stay in one place and not be in a hurry to leave. And also remember that the Life After Law School has a community, and the whole essence is to keep everyone connected, expose opportunities to them, offer mentorship and growth. So try to stay in touch, which is now bringing me to the internship opportunity I already discussed with some firms, and I'm still discussing with more firms. But in the meantime, you should know that one of the challenges that we identified was the fact that law firms are not, so all of them will not be open to take interns at the same time. That is the first thing. So we're going to be giving it to you as it comes, which is why I said join the link. I will still, let me just paste that link here while I'm still talking. Just give me a second. Just join that link because that is the only way I can communicate to those that are interested. I'm pasting it on the chat box now. So the whole essence is we'll keep you informed, we'll keep bringing up the information as to the criteria and those that were taken and the firms we're sending you to. So the firms has assured, bring 3 people or bring 5 people, then the application is just like a formality, but the internship is already open to you. And I'm trying to negotiate every year, and some of them have already agreed. So that's for the internship. Then for the mentorship it's not going to be like how we have the webinar once a year. It's going to be maybe once every 2 months or once every 3 months. Just so we have people like Mr. Demola Akinrele, SAN, Mr. Falabi Kuti, SAN, Mr. Chukwudenebili, SAN from Pinheiro. We have the former Vice Chancellor of Lagos State University, Professor Fabon, SAN. So, and the list goes on and on, all of which I've spoken to, and they are very much ready to mentor. Some of these people are just very eager to help young lawyers, and they've said, okay, when you organize the mentorship program, let us know. So join that link because that is where I will also share that information. So it's going to be happening consistently, maybe 6 times in a year, so that young lawyers can be well equipped. And then bar aspirants can also be well equipped for the legal market that they will meet after university and law school. So what do you call it now? The webinar, the link to the meeting will be shared also in the group, and I'll try and circulate it to those that could not have access to join the platform when the meeting was going on. So I would also encourage you to write so this is just it's not compulsory. If you want to give us a feedback and you would like us to post it, when you join the link, state your name, send me your headshot, and state your feedback. Just 1 paragraph of what you learned from the webinar and how you are, you would encourage people to join next time on something like that. Then post it on the group chat. Send me your headshot. I will publicize it. It's also a way for me to also tag you on the post and create some sort of community and awareness, and at the same time giving you visibility on the social media platforms. Now, respect to those that the first 5 people to join the webinar, I noted Chinenye Eza Basile. I don't know if she's still here. I also noted Chizoba Loveline or Loveline, sorry. Then Ede Chimagorum Faith, Deborah Oga, and Bola. So I'll probably split it between Bola and Ekeme Robert. So join the link. When you join the link, state your name, state your bank details. So please, I'll use this name this is what I work with. If I don't see it there, I will assume that maybe you're not interested. So you cannot hold me to that. So just put it there, and then I'll also send the receipts there. And then on the issue of what else am I supposed to? Yeah, then those that answered questions, Ekeme Robert attempted to summarize what the judge said. Blessing summarized what the senior advocate said. And I think Adewale Mofetoluwa summarized what Mrs. Robert said. And then who else? Then Emmanuel and Perpetua summarize what so you do the same thing when you get to the group chat, state your name and state what your award is for, the category your award is for, so that you can be credited. So thank you all for joining the webinar. We've come to a close, and I wish you all a very good evening. Enjoy the month of September. And thank you all to our speakers once again for joining the webinar. So have a good evening. All right, bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
You're most welcome. Thank you all.
All right, thank you, Chinasa. Bye.
Bye. Thank you too.
Thank you for the webinar.
Thank you, Wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you for the webinar.
You're welcome, Ebenezer. Thank you too for joining.
Thank you so much, madam. Very impressive.
Thank you, Solomon.
I hope to be joined in your group chat,
So have you
please.
clicked the link? Have you joined?
The link.
Yeah, I pasted it on the group chat. That is the chat box. You see a Telegram group. You can join from there. And then if you have my LinkedIn, you can also stay in touch through that platform, because what I'm going to do is I'm also going to paste the link there so that people can join as much as they can, and then the information will be circulated in that platform.
I'm not actually seeing the link.
Okay, let me paste it again.
Okay.
Just check the
So
chat box now.
for the Telegram, I think the group is muted. It's not allowing comments.
I can literally hear you.
Yeah, I'm saying that the Telegram is not allowing comments.
It's not allowing comments. Let me see.
Like chats.
Oh, I see what you mean. Let me see if I can change that. And thank you for notifying me. Otherwise, I would have just been waiting for people to say something. Try again.
Okay, yeah, there's a direct message now.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.